Konohagakure. 3 months before the birth of Uzumaki Naruto. Uzumaki Kushina, Naruto's mother, had been the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Yoko for some time now. But ever since she became pregnant with Naruto, the fox inside of her had slowly been trickling his own chakra into the unborn baby. For the Kyuubi had a feeling that something bad will happen in the future yet again, and this time it will be another wretched Uchiha, as he called them. Like an itch in the back of his mind, he knew he would be sealed once more, and this child would be the most likely candidate. No one knew what was happening except for the Kyuubi. He thought to that if he managed to have his chakra corrupt the child's current chakra, then he would have an easier time breaking out. The Kyuubi hated being sealed away ever since his first host, Uzumaki Mito, used her power to take away his freedom. He hated humans and all that they stood for. No one has ever treated him as an equal, let alone a person. The only one that he ever loved and could call anything close to a family was Otsutsuki Hagoromo, or as everyone else knew him, the Rakuto Sannin, Sage of the Six Paths. After that, everyone else just treated him like a monster. Years passed since the death of the only person he cared for, and he just hid from the world, until he was forced into a fight by a man with red eyes, able to control even the mightiest of Bijus. When he was sealed away, and that into a human, the creatures he began to hate the most in this world, he slowly began to plot a way to get his revenge and to escape the grasps of human beings. The day he was sealed from one human into another, he got even angrier. He thought that they would just keep sealing him from human to human, once the human he was sealed into got close to its end. And that made him hate them more, for they just kept taking away his freedom. The day that he found out that his current host, Uzumaki Kushina, became pregnant, he started with his plan. It was a long shot and he knew the risk of corrupting a human's chakra with his own, but he had no other choice. The Kyuubi was fed up of being treated like a monster and being used as a weapon, being sealed into one person to the next. I will stop this cycle. I am no pet and one's weapon. I'm done being used by these filth called humans. No one has ever shown me any form or respect at all, and no one ever will. I hate them all, and when I get free, every last one of them will die, thought the Kyuubi, keeping his emotions in check so that his host didn't feel anything. He had a name, and he liked his name because he gave it to him. But never has anyone even so much as asked what it was. Though he wouldn't give it to anyone, because he never thought of anyone being worthy of knowing his name. Soon the day arrived that Uzumaki Naruto, son of Uzumaki Kushina and Namikaze Minato, was born. And just like he thought, another damned Uchiha summoned him for the purpose to control him yet again. He tried to resist, but it was futile. That day the Kyuubi attacked, changing a lot in the world, especially for everyone who lived in Konohagakure. For many of its people lost loved ones. Whether it was a sibling or a parent, most of that day would never be forgotten. Especially when the Yondaime Hokage, Namikaze Minato, died sealing the Kyuubi once again. But not before the Kyuubi killed his now previous host, Uzumaki Kushina. She helped her husband into sealing the monster into their newborn child. As much as he tried to resist, he knew he would be sealed no matter what. For Minato and used one of the strongest seals ever to seal the Kyuubi into his son, who was lying only a few feet away from the now impaled mother and father of the child. Said child was surrounded by candles, placed in a circle around him. The child had red hair and also a mark on his stomach that was from the seal the Yondaime Hokage used. His eyes were closed, so no one could make out what eye color he had. The Shiki Fujin truly is an amazing seal, but said seal had a huge cost for being used. The cost being the user had to offer his soul to the Shinigami, death god. Minato did it without any hesitation, as he loved his village and his son. I love you so much, Naruto. I wish I could have seen you grow up and taught you everything I knew, Kushina said, while sobbing, tears rolling down her cheeks from seeing her baby boy lying on the ground alone. You are everything to us, and we both will watch over you. I just know you'll be like me one day because you're an Uzumaki. But you're also a Namikaze, she said before coughing up blood from the wound in her stomach. Ha ha ha, came the voice of her husband, who found that part a bit funny even though he was truly sad himself. "If you're anything like your mother, then the girls will have to run," Minato said, trying to cheer his wife up even just a little. He knew it was futile, but he wanted to try at least, for she was his wife and he loved her, just as much as he loved his child. "Naruto, I know you will do great things. I also hope the people treat you like a hero after this, for that is my plan. I know there will be a lot of sorrow in the village after this day, but always remember to see the brighter side of things and be happy. When you get older, I know you'll be even stronger than me, so protect everyone close to you. I love you, my son, now and forever." That was the last words Uzumaki Kushina and Namikaze Minato spoke before they both died in each other's arms, only a few feet away from their baby boy who was crying the entire time. Minato had succeeded in sealing the Kyuubi into his son, and Sarutobi Hiruzen, the third Hokage, saw this all. It saddened the old white-haired man greatly, seeing as how another child would have to grow up without a mother or a father. He would have taken the child and raised him himself, but it was made impossible when the fourth sealed the Kyuubi no Yoko into him. Hatake Kakashi, student of the Yandame Hokage, saw this all too, and he was sad at the event that just took place. He cried when his former sensei died. The man taught him a lot and meant even more to the young shinobi. It was a sad day for the people of Konohagakure. Not only did many of them lose loved ones, they also lost their Hokage. He was feared throughout the entire elemental nations for his speed, which earned him the name of Konoha no Kiroi Senko, Konoha's Yellow Flash. But while everything took place, unknown to everyone or everything, meaning the Kyuubi, there was one being that stood high in the sky looking down on everything that took place. Said being didn't do anything to help, because it was forbidden. That child is going to have a heavy life, because of that burden inside him now, came a feminine voice as the being spoke to herself while hovering high above Konoha. The woman had long dark black hair that run down to just below her lower backside, with a white and red robe, one that covered her entire body, except her head, hands, and feet. She didn't wear any footwear, for she found it uncomfortable. She also had what looked like a golden shield and a golden sword hovering beside her, with a few golden objects floating behind her. Said objects were just for show, but were also to show who she really was. The woman that hovered high above the sky, unenviable by anyone, was the goddess Amaterasu. The goddess of the sun was feared by many, and worshipped by even more in the past. But as time passed, many began to doubt her existence, for no one has ever seen her before. The only man who ever came face to face with her was the Rakuto Sannin himself, but that was only just a few moments before he died. Some had said that they heard stories about her, but no one ever saw her. No one truly knew even where the myth came from, but many believed it. That was until they started to doubt it altogether. For she never showed herself to anyone truly. The Rakuto Sannin himself doubted what he saw before he died, for he didn't think that was possible. But he could think much more than that before he gave his last breath, making the goddess herself disappear without a trace. She was forbidden to make contact with humans, for it was her own law. Humans interested her, but not that much for her to reveal herself to anyone. The only reason she visited the Rakuto Sannin, which only she knew, was for her to tell him what he had done when he founded Ninshu, Shinobi Secret, and created the ninja world. But before that day, he had believed himself to be of somewhat a godly being. He was proven horribly wrong when he saw her. He was never afraid of anything, for he, alongside his brother, Hamura, had defeated their mother, who was known as Princess Otsutsuki Kagaya, the matriarch of the Otsutsuki clan. When they defeated her, she became the Jubi, Ten-Tails. But she couldn't do much before her son, Otsutsuki Hagoromo, sealed her inside of him to keep her away from the world. He had thought of his mother as the goddess of creation, for she had founded what was now known as chakra when she ate the fruit of the god tree. She, in her Jubi, didn't even scare her, ever. But the sight of the goddess of the sun herself terrified him beyond belief. She had, before his death, let him feel a mere glimpse of her power, and that glimpse was more than what her mother ever had, even with her full power. That day, he truly felt small in someone's eyes. He also believed that said goddess would even be able to have killed his entire family without even blinking an eye. But her only and last words before his death made him nearly peed himself. Who gave you the right to create a ninja world? And who do you think gave your family, mother included, those eyes? For what your family has done, every last one of you will be erased out of existence. The world may come to know you, but your legacy stops here, was all she said before he died. She had watched over humanity all these years, ever since the beginning. She felt sorrow when people died, but that was a part of being human. She hated when others picked on someone else. But she had at least saw some good in a few people. Amaterasu never once helped anyone much, aside from whispering into a ear every now and then to try and help the person make a better choice. Sometimes it worked, but most of the time it didn't. For she saw that most humans just wanted more and more power. She hated what she gave to them all those years ago. The Sharingan was her worst gift to humanity that came from Otsutsuki Kagaya. But she also pulled some power away from it, such as the way to get it and also the Rinne-Sharingan. She believed no human had the right to have those eyes, for they only brought out the madness in people and the want for more power. It was proven right once more when the fight between Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama. For the Uchiha had used his eyes to control a Biju, and the strongest among them also. That only got her more angry than she already was for allowing mankind to have the eyes. But she couldn't take them away now anymore, without revealing herself that it. She was at least a bit more happy when the Senju defeated the Uchiha, and saw the good in the heart of the man known today as the Shodai Hokage, first Hokage. And at least the other eye she gave Kagaya didn't end up being that badly used. So she didn't take any of that power away from its users. But she feared the day that he would have to reveal herself to mankind to stop yet another war. Amaterasu hated the wars that started all become of human wanting more power, or wanted to control the entire world. She made it her duty to check upon mankind every now and then. But she at least hid herself well, for she was the only true goddess that ever existed. The rest of whom people believed in were just stupid to her, for she didn't even know where people got those ideas. She hated the idea of what they believed in, for it made her feel lonely. Though being the goddess of the sun had its ups, it also had its downs. She could never show herself to anyone, for that would scare them just like it scared the Rakuto Sannin himself. For such a powerful man to become that scared of just seeing her, made her to make a law for herself to never reveal herself to another human again. That didn't mean she couldn't reveal herself to the beasts of the earth at least. Amaterasu did, over time, reveal herself to each and every one of the 9 Bijus. They all cowered in her presence, for she let out a glimpse of her killer intent. The Kyuubi was the only one who wanted to fight her, for she somewhat looked human to him. But that was his last mistake he ever made with her, for she almost killed him and being made out of chakra with just the mere flick of her finger. That also made the Kyuubi respect her, because she told him about the man he cared for long ago. The only thing she told every Biju was that none of them may ever tell any human about her, or else she would erase their very existence. They all feared her, but also respected her. For the only reason she even made herself known to them all was for her to tell them what would happen once they all got fused back together once more. And that was something she would never allow. But now she saw the Kyuubi attack and almost destroy an entire village, and to be sealed once more at the sake of another man's life. She hated the idea of a child being burdened with such a fate. A child that was only born not even a few hours ago. A child who had no one he could call family anymore. All because of an Uchiha yet again. I may not interfere with mankind, but that child, I have a feeling about him. A feeling I've never had about anyone or anything ever before. I've seen some good people, but that child intrigues me. Let's see what happens of him once he becomes older, came the angelic voice of Amaterasu herself as she spoke to herself once more, while looking at the blonde-haired boy with blue eyes. I guess I'll see you soon again, Uzumaki Naruto. 3 years later. A lot has happened to Uzumaki Naruto, but none good at all, especially on his birthday, which is today once again. Since the Kyuubi attack on Kanehagakure, everyone became to hate the young Uzumaki. Some even tried to kill him or hurt him badly. They didn't care that he was a baby, for they all saw him as just a mere reincarnation of the monster that destroyed their village and killed their loved ones. But it was made impossible to do so when Sarutobi Hiruzen made a law that forbade people to hurt the Uzumaki. Thought that didn't stop them from doing other things to him, or even hurting him when no one else was looking. In the 3 years since he was born, Naruto has been in 2 orphanages. The first one refused to feed him, bathe him, or even give him a proper place to sleep in. Hiruzen was furious when one night, when he wanted to go visit the young boy, found him outside of the orphanage and in a box. The only thing that covered him was an old ruined piece of newspaper. But the thing that made the third Hokage even angrier was when he found burned marks on the boy, who was at the time just 9 months old. Said burned marks were caused by cigarettes. He also found a few cuts of the baby's arms and legs that clearly came from knives. The old man was so angry that he put the warden of the orphanage in prison for life. He wanted to execute the man, but couldn't because he couldn't find any evidence that said man was the one that did it. But he put him in prison because the man was supposed to take care of the baby. Hiruzen wanted to adopt the child right then and there, but was refused to do when by the council and because of him being their Hokage. That led Naruto to his second orphanage, where he didn't receive much better treatment. They hit him every now and then, meaning the warden and everyone else who lived in the orphanage, but not hard enough to leave marks. They wanted to take out their rage on the young baby, for they all saw him as the monstrous Kyuubi. They even started to call him Akuma, demon, or Baketsun, monster fox. As soon as Hiruzen heard this, he made another law. A lot to never mention the Kyuubi, or you will be executed. Thought that yet again didn't stop the people and children from tormenting the baby that turned 3 today. During that time, he got hurt even more. Some people even tried to smother him to death, or even to drown him. They were of course accepted by Hiruzen, but they didn't care, for they hated the young Uzumaki with all their hearts and wanted him dead. Some of the people even started to plot a plan to try and get the Uzumaki child and to kill him someplace where the shinobi couldn't see them. During the 3 years, Naruto never even once got anything good to eat, unless Hiruzen somehow got some spare time to treat the baby himself. But that was very rare, seeing as how the village was still recovering from the attack that happened 3 years ago. So he only, at the most, got 4 good meals, which was just normal baby food, in all this 3 years of being alive so far. Naruto never even felt the comfort of a normal warmth bed or a blanket. The only reason he was able to survive all these things that happened to him, which no one knew how, was because of his chakra. The Hyuga clan never looked at the child because they didn't even bother to acknowledge his existence. Even the Uchiha clan hated him, for some people thought that they were the ones that got the Kyuubi to attack the village. But that soon died down when they thought that it didn't make any sense, since they are also residents of Konoha and they too lost people in the Kyuubi attack. So they all just kept with blaming Naruto for everything. Every loss, every destroyed building, or even something small was put on Uzumaki Naruto. They blamed him for it all. Some shinobi knew the truth at least, like Hatake Kakashi and Sarutobi Hiruzen. But everyone who knew the truth couldn't do anything, for they were shinobi and had their duties to the town. They needed to get everything bad to normal, for fear of being attacked by another village. Minato-sensei, Jiraiya, and Kushina's friend, Senju Tsunade, were the only ones who could have probably done something, but they were both out of the village and weren't even there when the Kyuubi attacked. Jiraiya had left because he thought of himself as a failure, seeing as how he lost his once best friend, Orochimaru, and then also his closest student, the Yondaime Hokage. He was heartbroken when he heard about his death, and also about the death of Kushina. That also meant that the son they were supposed to have would have died that night. Tsunade was also saddened by that, for she loved both Minato and Kushina, but she left before the attack because of the losses she had even before that. When her brother, Senju Nawaki, and her lover, Kato Dan, had died, she lost herself, and that drove her into alcohol and gambling. She cried when she heard about Kushina's death, because Kushina was actually her cousin. They both had Uzumaki Mito as an old relative, her being Tsunade's grandmother and also being Kushina's distant cousin, because of them both from the Uzumaki clan. So it saddened Tsunade when she heard about it, but even more so when she thought that Naruto had died with them. But Hiruzen had sent letters to both of them to tell them that Uzumaki Naruto was still alive. Thought each time the third Hokage had sent a letter, his former teammate and current councilman Shimura Danzo had used his root Anbu to destroy the letters. With that, neither Tsunade or Jiraiya had gotten any letters from their sensei, so it only made them stay away from the village longer. Today, however, was a very bad day once again. Naruto's birthday, or what people called the day the demon child had taken away their loved ones and had destroyed their homes 3 years ago. It's also the day that the orphanage caretakers, who were mostly women, took upon themselves to gather some men to get rid of the demon child once and for all. "Here, take the fucking bastard," one of the women said in a low voice, handing the still sleeping 3-year-old Naruto to another man. Said man took the child, not showing any kindness to him when he almost dropped him. "Don't kill him just yet. Hokage-sama would kill us all if he found out about this," another caretaker said, also as softly as possible. The sun had yet to even rise today, and they knew that they had the entire day at least to torment the child before killing him. They had made sure to get some help from one of the councilmen to distract the Hokage from visiting the Uzumaki. Each year when it was Naruto's birthday, Hiruzen would visit the child and treat him to something good to eat. The old Hokage knew he still didn't get anything good to eat from his usual grub they called food. Said food wouldn't even be given to pigs to eat, yet they fed it to a human baby boy. The third Hokage knew that they gave him bad food, but just didn't know how bad. Naruto had yet to even grow much, because he didn't get any nutrition he needed to grow. It worried the old man to no ends, for he didn't know what he should do. He had tried a few times more to get Jiraiya or even Tsunade to come back to town to even try and keep the baby with them for some time. But when he didn't get any response from them at all, he worried. He knew that something had happened to the letters he had sent, but didn't have any evidence. Hiruzen knew that it somehow had to be Danzo, for he already knew the man wanted to become Hokage more than anything else. Yet he never had the support from any of the councilmen, so he couldn't become Hokage no matter how hard he tried. And that frustrated the old one-eyed man to no end. But he was a patient man, so he could want a bit long. That was what he told himself, even when the civilians came to him for him. They had said that they only wish for him to distract the Hokage for a few hours. He wanted to ask why, but thought against it when an idea came to mind. "I'll let those fools have their little fun today, for when this day is over, I will have the Kyuubi in my hands. Hiruzen will believe that they had fled with him, and he will send Anbu after the people. But I will be the one to take the boy into my root and train him myself to be obedient to me alone," Danzo thought to himself, showing a clear smirk across his face. It only took a few men to hide the child, and they hid him as good as possible so that no shinobi could see the child. Some people even saw what they were doing and decided to help the people. Others even asked if they could join, for they all wanted a piece of the monster. Soon enough, 20 people had joined the little party. The others had been off to feast, for it was also known as the day the Yondaime Hokage had beaten the Kyuubi, and that was a huge celebration for many people. The people who were taking Naruto deep into the Shur no Mori, Forest of Death, located at Training Ground 44, had all used the feast as a distraction from the shinobis. They were glad that no one was guarding the forest today, which made it so much easier for them to get into, though some were scared to enter the Forest of Death because of all the things they've heard of it. But that fear quickly went away when the men started saying, "Death to the monster." It only took them a couple of minutes to head as deep into the forest as they needed to for them to out of sight from anyone else could have seen them. But they thought that even the gods had been with them today when no one came after them, let alone saw them or paid attention to them. They stayed in that forest for some time, and some were already beating up the 3-year-old child. Everyone had believed that a normal 3-year-old child would have died long ago from the way they treated him, which they all thought he deserved. But seeing that he was still alive made them even more think that he truly is the Kyuubi no Yoko in his reincarnation form. so they quickly started to beat the child by kicking and hitting him. This time tough, it was not soft at all. The villagers started kicking and hitting him with all of their strength, getting a loud cry from the baby Naruto. "Serves you right, demon!" a villager with brown hair yelled while kicking the young Uzumaki. "You killed my wife!" another one yelled, kicking him even harder than before. "This is for my brother and sister, you fucking hideous monster," came the voice of another man, as he punched the red-haired so hard that some of his teeth, the little he had, flew from his mouth. But when they saw that he started slowly healing himself from all the bruises and lost teeth he got, they began to get even more angry. "Fuck this. He has to die today. It's a fucking monster that's already healing himself," the first man with brown hair yelled, as he took out a knife and without hesitation, stabbed the blonde in the side of his ribs. They got an extremely loud cry from the red-haired baby, who has never felt such pain before. He couldn't get away, for couldn't even walk, let alone say anything at all. He's a 3-year-old baby who couldn't even speak very well, for no one ever took the time to teach him anything at all. Another villager had gotten a knife of his own and stabbed the boy right in the stomach, then slashed him over his chest. After that one more man came and kicked the blonde with all his might, which caused the blonde to spit out a lot of blood and also the remaining air in his lungs. They didn't want to give him time to recover, so they kept hitting and stabbing him all over his body. But for some reason, the boy never fell unconscious or gave up to try and breathe. That only got the villagers more angry, as a man quickly grabbed him by his throat, holding him high up in the air as he started to strangle him. Another man quickly got out some rope from a bag he brought, and with the help of the others, they quickly got it over a branch. When he was done tying the knot of the rope to fit the side of a rope which was meant to hand someone, they quickly placed the child's head through the rope. Thought they kept him up in the air a little while longer for another man to run towards the child, as he thrusted 2 huge knives through the child's stomach. Unknown to them, they had hit the seal that held the Kyuubi. When they hit the seal, it caused said beast to awake from his slumber. Somehow, when he was sealed inside the child, he was put to sleep immediately. That forced him to be unable to continue with his plan to escape. But when he woke up and saw what was happening, he got angry. Very, very angry. He didn't know why, but seeing how they were currently treating his host, which he believed wasn't even old enough to even probably walk, he got angry. But before he could do anything, a flash of the boy's life flashed into his head. The Kyuubi saw how they treated his host. While he had no fondness for any human at all, and hated them with all he had, when he saw those images and what they were currently doing, he screamed. And he screamed loudly with a huge roar. "Get your fucking hands off of him, you useless excuse of fucking humans. He's not even old enough to fucking walk and you treat him like shit. I'll murder every last one of you when I get out of here. I'll burn every last one for you alive." Though no one could hear him, for he was behind a massive cell, he tried hard to jump through it, believing that he could break it if he tried hard enough. But nothing worked. He didn't like the boy when he saw him the first time when Naruto was born. But this and everything else he saw made the Kyuubi hate humans even more, if that was even possible. It also made him somehow care for boy. But most of all, it made him feel guilty, for they were doing all of this to this young boy, because they all thought he was him. The Kyuubi. Outside, the people kept torturing him. They decided to not hang him, rather have more fun with the baby boy. But when he started to cry again, it pissed them off. One man grabbed a knife and cut the boys through as deep as he could. When Naruto opened his eyes a little when he felt his throat being slit, it got another man to grab the knives that was still inside his stomach, to get them out and slashed his eyes out. That hurt Naruto even more than he has ever felt before, and he believed that today he was dead. Though for someone so young, he didn't know what death even was. Another man grabbed the huge knives from the man that just cut his eyes out and cut both his hands off. That forced Naruto to fall into unconsciousness, as he was losing way too much blood way too fast. But unknown to everyone, the goddess of the sun had come back yet again to check up on the young boy she found interesting. She did check up on him each time it was his birthday, for she was there when he was born. But when she couldn't sense him, it started to worry her. And that felt odd, for she, Amaterasu, had never worried about anyone before. She quickly closed her eyes and sensed for said boy that she was currently worrying about. When she felt that his life was in danger, it made her move towards where he than she had ever had moved before. But when she saw the young 3-year-old boy, bleeding to death with his no more eyes or hands, with a slit through, that pushed her off the edge. Not one villager knew what happened before they were killed, brutally. Upon death, the Shinigami came to collect their souls, but stopped when he saw Amaterasu. "Eh? Amaterasu-sama? Did you do all this?" The Shinigami asked, scared when he saw all the death of every human. "Do not question me, Shinigami, or you know what will happen. I killed them for what they did to this poor boy," she replied, already holding Naruto in her arms with a golden barrier surrounding him to keep him from dying. Inside Naruto, the Kyuubi was already trying his best to heal the boy, but it was hard when he was being the seal. "Oh, of course, Amaterasu-sama," he replied, showing how worried and afraid his was of her as clear as day. I felt the boy. Why? You're holding getting close to death himself," the Shinigami continued, slowly collecting the other souls of the dead humans. "You will not touch this boy's souls, ever. Not unless I say so. Do I make myself clear?" she replied, and without question. Amaterasu never asked questions, for she was the one who even created the Shinigami in the first place. "Also those souls you just collected. Make sure they suffer the worst fate possible," the goddess told the Shinigami, who merely just nodded before getting the lost soul of the humans that she killed. He had never seen her of all to ever lay a single finger on any human, so killing these humans truly meant that she was beyond angry. And even the Shinigami himself didn't want to ever be on her bad side. So after he collected the souls, he quickly made his way back to his domain, but only after bidding the goddess farewell first. "You, until next time, Amaterasu-sama." Amaterasu herself was still trying to calm down from what she just saw, before she made another choice. She slowly went invisible before she left, but also made sure to erase the bodies of the ones she killed out of existence. Sarutobi Hiruzen sat in his office, along with Jiraiya, who finally came back. Next to him sat Hatake Kakashi, who looked just a bit older than 17. Beside the white-haired man sat a young woman who looked to be somewhat a few years younger than everyone else in the room, with long black hair and beautiful red eyes. Also known as Yuhi Kurenai. There were 2 more people in the room. One man had a green spandex on and had huge eyebrows, and next to him stood a man that looked like a younger version of Hiruzen, only for black hair and a cigarette in his mouth. They are known as Mato Guy, Might Guy, and Sarutobi Asuma. They were all currently in the Hokage's office because Hiruzen himself, after his so-called council meeting that was set up by Danzo to distract the Hokage, he quickly made his way towards the orphanage to check up on Naruto. But when all the caretakers couldn't tell him where he was, he got worries. He knew Naruto couldn't walk even for a 3-year-old, so he told them all that if he didn't find them, that they would all go to prison. So now he was in his office with all the teenagers he trusted, and knew that none of them hated Naruto. True, some of them never really took the chance to get to know the boy, for they were either too busy or just thought that he was doing okay at least. But being called here today by the Hokage, and all of them, made them worry. "I went to check on Naruto-kun a few hours ago, because you all know what today is, especially for him. But when I didn't find him and those arrogant caretakers couldn't tell me where he is, got me more worried," Hiruzen started, clearly showing how worried he was with his facial expression. "So I called you here today, for this is a private meeting. This all will never be said outside of this room, for I trust you all. I have already placed a privacy seal on the door so no one else can hear us, and it is only us in this room," the old Hokage continued before he sat down in his chair. "I believe something bad has happened to Naruto, and that some of the people in this town are responsible. I don't know how, but they even got Danzo in to help them. They distracted me today with a bunch of nonsense, and now Naruto-kun is missing." This made everyone either Hokage with wide eyes, shocked of what they just heard. but also worried about the boy's safety. Kakashi felt even worse, for the child they were talking about is the child of his sensei, the man he respected more than anyone. But before any of them could say or ask anything, they all felt another presence in the room. Behind them came Amaterasu herself, appearing out of thin air. None of them knew who she was or how she got in, so they all quickly took a fighting stance. "Who are you? And how did you get in here? This is a private meeting." Hiruzen spoke as he showed his anger towards the unknown woman, who none of them noticed was hovering slightly above the ground. "You dare raise your voice against me? You dare ask me anything, human?" came the angry voice of Amaterasu, who was still holding a golden barrier in her arms. None of them could see into the golden object, as they just gulped when she let out the smallest bout of killer intent she could possibly muster. "I am Amaterasu, goddess of the sun and the only goddess," she replied, for she wanted them to know just who they were staring at. Everyone in the room fell to their knees, even Hiruzen himself. "You will get your chance to speak when I say so, or else you will die if you so much as open your mouth," the goddess said, looking at everyone in the room before she let the golden barrier down, revealing a broken and beat-up, almost dead Uzumaki Naruto. Everyone's eyes grew large at this, for they all thought he was dead. No one could survive something like that. Hiruzen wanted to speak, but something made him unable to. So did everyone else, and they all instantly believed the woman for who she said she is. "Look at what your disgusting village did. I found this boy nearly dead in that forest, being beaten and tortured by your villagers," Amaterasu continued, eyeing the Hokage specifically. "He is 3 years old, yet he has never had anything good to eat. He has never had a place he could call home. He can't even talk or see anymore because of your damn villagers. You call yourself shinobi, yet none of you even so much as even went out of your way to say hello to an innocent child who was forced to contain the Kyuubi." She spoke in a harsh tone, making everyone gasp in shock of what she knew. But that quickly went away as they all kept staring at Naruto, who looked to be dead to them. Kurenai, the youngest of them all, began to sob as she was unable to hold it in any longer. Everyone else felt the sadness and anger of what they saw, but Kurenai was the first one to speak among them. "I'll kill them. Where are they? I'll fucking kill every last person who ever so much as harmed Naruto-kun. I'll make the dash," was all she could say before she was shushed by Amaterasu, who for some reason didn't kill the human like she said she would once someone spoke when she didn't allow it. "You are very brave to speak up when I said you may not, especially for someone so young," Amaterasu told Kurenai, looking into her eyes directly. When she saw just how kind this human truly was, she smiled slightly despite everything that has happened today. I am afraid, for I do believe you for who you say you are, but I loved Uzumaki Kushina, his mother. I feel so ashamed of myself for not ever taking the chance to even see her child. I feel like I failed her. By failing him," Kurenai said between sobs, crying and also making everyone else look at her in surprise. "Please do something for him. I don't know what power you have, but from what I've heard, you can help him. I'll do anything. All I ask is that you save Naruto," the young red-eyed girl said, sobbing lightly from the sight of a broken and beaten Naruto. No one in the room has ever seen her like this, except the day her parents died at the hands of the Kyuubi. Amaterasu just looked at her before she looked back at Naruto. The Hokage wanted to speak also, but was yet again silenced by the finger of the goddess herself. "I will allow it. I came here to see how Naruto is doing today, and this day has made me regret a lot of things. But I've been watching over this boy since he was born. I can't always have my eyes on him, so that is why I've came to visit him a few times, especially on his birthday. I wanted to give him a present when he turned 6, but I guess that will have to be the present I give to him now," came the now angelic voice of the woman hovering above the ground in front of them. "Also, to make you calm down a little, I have killed the men who did this. They will never be heard of again or be seen again," the goddess continued, getting gasps from everyone, especially the Hokage. "It will be your duty to tell the humans' families who died today of whatever you want, except the truth. I have the right more than anyone else on this planet, and always will, to do as I please. But I have rules for myself, which some of them I've broken today. One of them being to show you all that I truly do exist. I would have taken the memory away from all of you, but I will leave that for you all for now to see what you do. Say anything about me to anyone else, and I will erase your memory of meeting me, Amaterasu said once more, before placing her hand over Naruto's left hand, then to his next. Both times, she quickly healed and restored his hand, but also with some hidden abilities that she didn't want to let him know just yet. Then she placed her hands over his throat, healing him instantly. She healed every part of his body, but unfortunately some places left scars, for they were cut too deep. Amaterasu could have healed even said scars, but wanted them to have a reminder of what they all will do in the future, whenever they see this boy's body. She then placed her hands over his eyes, healing them, but also spoke up once more. I am giving this boy something that will be of great use in the future to him. It will be eyes that not even that accursed Sharingan can or ever will be able to match, came her angelic voice once more. But this time she looked straight into Kakashi's only visible eye. He gulped when she saw those eyes of hers, already fearing that she might take his covered eye. Do not fear, human. I will not take your eye. You are not of that damned Uchiha clan that goes crazy for power, she spoke, eyeing Kakashi specifically before looking at the Hokage next. These eyes will also not ever be able to pass to anyone else, should he someday have a family. They will not have these eyes and no one else either. And should someone be foolish enough to want to take them by force, then they will die instantly before even getting to them. I will continue to check on this boy from time to time, for I still want to see if he is worthy of everything I just gave him. I still have some things that I will give him if he proves himself worthy, which I believe he will. For all your failures, she spoke, looking to every single one this time before continuing. You will all be tasked to teach this boy whatever you know, until he is able to protect himself. But then, I will teach him a few things myself. Thought, that part I'll erase from your memories soon, for only he, the QB and this young girl here. She pointed to Kurenai, who has stopped crying but still looked very sad, can know. Kurenai had, in this short moment, started to care for the boy in the arms of the goddess herself, more than almost everyone she has ever met. For his mother taught her a lot, but meant even more to her. They all nodded, not wanting to upset the goddess. The rest of them had yet to speak, for they still feared of what she might do if they said or asked something they shouldn't. Lastly, Miss, Amaterasu began yet again, looking at Kurenai once more. K. Kurenai. Yuhi Kurenai, she gave in a soft yet heard-able voice tone. Kurenai, I do not expect you to give up anything at all for this boy, but you said that you'd do anything for me to heal him. That made the red-eyed woman nod, not going back on her word. Amaterasu just smiled at this before she continued. Then I ask of you to take care of this boy. He doesn't need to stay with you, for I know you village rules. I only ask that you take care of him, like teach him how to talk. All those little human things a growing boy needs, and if you wish to, be his friend, for he will need one when he gets older. Also, I will not allow him to be placed in any orphanage ever again. The entire time she spoke to everyone, Jiraiya was the only one among them who had different thoughts. He didn't know what to believe anymore, but other than that, he couldn't stop looking away from the woman in front of them. In all his life, Jiraiya of Sannin was the only one who took the time to think of how beautiful the woman is, though that was mostly because of him being a self-proclaimed super pervert. It was also something that didn't go unnoticed by Amaterasu herself, for she then looked at the older white-haired man with disgust in her eye before she spoke. Pervert, look at me again with those eyes and I will make sure you never see anything again. Do you understand me? Jiraiya just nodded dumbly, not truly believing or understanding of how she had just caught of what he thought. The rest of the men in the room, being Madogai and Sarutobi Asuma, had yet to say anything also, mostly because they either didn't know what to say, or because she was able to threaten not only the Hokage, but also one of their strongest shinobi who is a Sannin. So they just decided to keep quiet and see what happens. Though Asuma did think of why Kurenai all of a sudden speak up like she did, and also why she suddenly cared so much for a baby boy she just laid her eyes on a few minutes ago. But he didn't voice that because of the presence of the goddess herself. Soon Amaterasu came with a thought, before she spoke again with a small smile on her face. I will be taking Uzumaki Naruto with me for an entire week. I am giving you all this week to think of what to do with him, meaning with his living arrangements. I do not care what you come up with, as long as it's not any orphanage or anything that could harm Naruto. When I return, I expect an answer, came her angelic voice once more, and one that every person in the room liked hearing. The Hokage was the first one to speak up after such a long time of silence from the members of Konohagakure. We understand, Amaterasu-sama. I do feel very ashamed for letting this happen, and I will come up with an appropriate solution within the week. Though Hiruzen didn't know what he was going to tell the people who asked him what happened to the villagers, or of what happened to Naruto. What he did know at least is that he didn't have the right, and neither could, speak up against the goddess of the sun. After he spoke, Amaterasu just nodded before she faded away, leaving them all alone one more. The road begins. It's been 6 days since Amaterasu did exactly as she said she would. She, the goddess of the sun, actually took a human baby of 3 years old to her place that is unreachable for any human. Said place was only reachable if Amaterasu herself allowed it, and she has never done so before, until 6 days ago when she brought little Naruto with her. Naruto wasn't exactly awake the entire time, for he was still recovering from his wounds. True, Amaterasu could have healed him so much that he would have awoken the minute she touched him, but she was also testing him. Even if he was just 3 years old still, the power she bestowed upon him wasn't something she'd ever give to just anyone. Heck, she was still a bit nervous about doing it, but she wanted to give the red-haired boy a change, for she saw something in him that no one else saw. Well, maybe that red-eyed girl saw it too. Who knows? I guess only time will tell, she thought while looking out into the world. From where she stood, she could see anything she wanted to, though she didn't want to see everything, for the world was cruel and humans did a lot of things she didn't like. That was her reason for never interfering, along with her rules she made for herself. For humans have freedom, but if she just looked over everyone and interfered each time something bad happened, then how can humans be truly free? And how would human ever learn from their mistakes? She thought about that a lot, but decided to never pay much mind to it. She did find a few things interesting over the years about the human race, but never something as interesting as the baby she was currently holding in her arms. Uzumaki Naruto, though only 3 years old, had a heart of gold and was so warm. She saw that from just looking at him, or more precisely at his heart. The goddess still wanted to see what would happen when he gets older, so that's why she made it so that when he becomes of age and truly shows he is the right one, that he will unlock the eyes she had given to him. She, Amaterasu herself, was the one that created each eye that ever existed, and she's the one that started everything. When Otsutsuki Kagaya, or better known as the matriarch of the Otsutsuki clan, came to Earth, Amaterasu decided to see if she could put a bit of trust into said woman. She did so by bestowing the dojutsu known as the Byakugan White Eye to said woman. But she later relished her mistake when the Otsutsuki matriarch consumed the fruit of the god tree and became the first wielder of chakra. Sure, Amaterasu knew that said dojutsu was useless without chakra, but she wanted to know if the woman was worth of even wielding it. She would have given her chakra when the time was right and if she proved herself worthy. But when she ate the fruit, Kagaya just truly proved that she wasn't worthy. Amaterasu wanted to take everything away from her, but knew that she may not interfere with anyone on Earth, even if they were not from Earth. She followed her rules. She knew the reasons why Kagaya ate the fruit of the god tree, but that was wrong, for when she ate the fruit, she obtained the most powerful dojutsu that Amaterasu never intended for anyone to have, the Rinne-Sharingan, Sasrakapi will I. But what made her more angry is when said woman called herself a godlike being that would end all the conflict of the human race, and she did so by using her newfound power of the Rinne-Sharingan to stop all the wars. But her method was cruel in the eyes of Amaterasu. the method of using a genjutsu called infinite tsukuyomi. Said genjutsu placed the entire world in an illusion. Each person had their own illusions, for everyone got what they wanted the most in this new dream world. So Amaterasu, being angry, used her power to places a small yet deadly virus inside Kaguya that began to eat at her heart. Kaguya didn't know why she suddenly became sick. She thought it must have been a side effect of using such a powerful genjutsu. After some time, Kaguya released some of the humans from the illusion, but also erased their memories. When she did that, the people started called her a goddess. Or more precisely, Usagi no Megami, rabbit goddess. The people loved her, as some even started to worship her. That only made the one true goddess even more angry. But she was patient. She knew that the woman would eventually die from the virus she planted in her. For there was no cure. Kaguya later on became pregnant and gave birth to her two sons, Hagoromo and Himura. She was glad that they didn't have the virus that she had, as they never showed any signs of it. Later on, Kaguya began to trust the human race less and less, until she didn't trust any of them anymore. She then began to do horrible things to the humans, as the power she got from consuming the god tree began to corrupt her. Amaterasu knew this would happen, for no one was made to ever eat it. Such was the will of the goddess of the sun. Hagoromo and Himura later on used their respective powers to take their mother down, who at some point took the form of a demon known as the Jubi. They both did what they could to stop her, but found it incredibly difficult, so they did the only thing they could think of. They sealed the beast's chakra within the former's body while using a husk, known as Geto Mazo, the demonic statue of the outer path, as the core of a powerful Fuinjutsu, sealing techniques, known as the Six Paths Chibaku Tensei, that also created a celestial body that is known today as the moon. Himura then took the seat of being the leader of the Otsutsuki clan and departed to the moon to guard the beast's remains for as long as he could. Hagoromo, on the other hand, remained on Earth to spread the chakra to all of humanity and taught them the concept of Ninshu, shinobi sect, that started what today is known as the ninja world, but that also created a lot of conflict between humans. For Hagoromo later on had children of his own. Otsutsuki Indora was his firstborn, and also the one that started the Uchiha clan, for he inherited the Kekkei Genkai known as the Sharingan. But his second son, Otsutsuki Ashura, did not inherit said eyes, though he did start the clans that is today known as the Senju clan and the Uzumaki clan. Time passed for the Otsutsuki clan, and eventually Hagoromo fell sick, which would eventually lead to his death. But before he died, he gave the leadership he had to his second son. Indora, feeling betrayed by his father, started a war against his brother for the right of being the ruler of the world. Though Ashura didn't see it as such, for he only wanted the peace his father wanted. But there was one thing that no one else saw that happened just before Kaguya was sealed off. Not even Amaterasu saw it, for she didn't pay attention. Kaguya created a being and ordered it to free her eventually. Said being then started to manipulate members of the Uchiha clan, for it wanted to see if there would be anyone that could awaken the Rinnegan. Though no one awoke it, until the day Uchiha Madara did, but that was only mere minutes before his death. The being did whatever it could to save the Uchiha, and to hide him from the eyes of the world so that he could manipulate even more people. The being liked the game of using human in a way that they thought was their own will. Amaterasu didn't pay attention to this, and neither did anyone else. The being later revealed itself to Madara as being called Black Zetsu, and also told dying Uchiha about its plan. While only some of it, for Black Zetsu was and still is loyal to only Kaguya, but he kept that to himself. That was how the two clans of Uchiha and Hyuga got their Kekkei Genkai. But that even Black Zetsu didn't know was that Amaterasu had taken the power of the Rinne-Sharingan away from the very existence it came from. The day Otsutsuki Kaguya got sealed, the goddess herself took away that power, so that no man can ever wield it again. She only let Uchiha Madara awaken his Rinnegan to see if she could maybe change the man somehow before he died. But that was to no avail, as even she thought the man died. She didn't look at his death, or even the entire battle that happened between the Uchiha and the Senju, for she was disgusted with how mankind just kept on creating wars after wars, all in the name of power. Every heart she looked at had hatred in it the day the person was born. Some had more than most, others had lesser. But they all had hatred in them, especially the Uchiha. That all changed when Uzumaki Naruto was born. She looked into his heart and expected to see some form of hatred, but saw none. She then kept looking at the newborn baby when he got the Kyuubi sealed inside him. It pained her to see the beasts getting sealed into humans and got their freedom taken away from them. But that was also why she revealed herself to each and every one of them the day the Rakuto Sannin created them by splitting the Kyuubi apart. One day you will all be free. It might not be as how you want it, but you will have freedom, is what she told them when she visited them. At first they got scared, seeing how powerful this new being truly was. Some of the beasts questioned her, only to be silenced in an instant. She also wanted to tell them all of what they truly were, before they are as they are now. That day they all gained even more respect for their father, but even more so for the goddess as she revealed something to them that not even the Rakuto Sannin did. When Naruto got the nine-tailed beast inside of him, she expected to see some form of hatred to begin to reveal itself in his heart, for the Kyuubi did, and still does, bear so much hatred for the human race. But still she saw nothing of the sort. Deep inside every human's heart, there was hatred for something, not matter how small. Even if it didn't exist when they were born, for their hearts and brains were too small to understand something like that, she still could see hatred in them. For Amaterasu could see into the future of a person's heart, and what could, or would, become of it. Sometimes the hatred she saw was small but grew over time. Other times it was huge, but began to dwell a little bit as time passed. But it never faded. She could even see their souls, and saw that a small part of it was corrupted by the hatred in their hearts, but that also grew for some people and lessened for others, though still it never faded. Until the birth of Uzumaki Naruto. No matter how hard and far she looked into his heart, she never saw hatred of any kind. So she decided to look over him from time to time, to see if something would change. He was treated worse than any other human in existence his age, and he was still just a 3-year-old boy. But when she saw that said boy was close to death by the way the people treated him, the way they beat him and tortured him to no end, Amaterasu felt something she herself never felt before. She didn't hate, she didn't curse humans, she never even loved humans. She only cared for them to some extent. That is why she never let anyone, the living or the dead, ever even get close to her palace. The goddess could have if she wanted to, for even the dead could roam in her palace if she allowed it. But she never even thought of that, for she never cared that much for someone. But when Naruto came close to death, the goddess of the sun, for the first time in her existence, felt love for someone. She looked into his heart before killing all those people, and what she saw made her, Amaterasu, almost cry. She didn't shed tears for anything or anyone, ever. When she saw the small 3-year-old boy, who was close to death, still bearing no hatred at all for, she felt heartbroken. Said little boy of 3 years old, still didn't hate the people who burned his skin. He still didn't hate them for how they treated him, or how he never got anything good to eat. Naruto never even once felt hatred when they slit his throat, cut his hands off or cut his eyes out. What he felt made her love the little red-haired boy. Uzumaki Naruto, even though he was sad and close to death, smiled. He thought of how they treated him, and if he could somehow make them happy by letting them kill him, then so be it. All he wanted was for them to be happy, even if he never experienced something like that. He felt their hatred for him in that moment, and thought of how he could take a bit of it away and make them smile. His smile wasn't a true happy smile, but a smile of remorse for them. Not hate but sadness. Naruto never felt happy, even when Hiruzen gave him those baby food that was meant to be good for him. He was sad and alone, but didn't hate anyone. When Amaterasu saw this, she cursed the humans for the first time. She made the Shinigami take their souls to torture them, the same way they tortured a little innocent boy who never even asked to be alive. The goddess felt angry at how humans could treat one of their own like that, and someone so young. That was when she decided to give him a change, and that why she is looking at his sleeping from now, laying in his arms. Prove yourself to me, and show me that you will never bear hatred. Then I will let you have the strongest power the humans can possess. I will let you, Uzumaki Naruto, have the Rinne-Sharingan so that you can do with it as you please. If you show any sort of hatred, then I will unfortunately have to take it back. But something tells me you never will. So when the time comes, you will be the only wielder of the strongest Kekkei Mora, bloodline encompassing. The goddess spoke mostly to herself, because Naruto was still asleep in her arms and still being healed. Though he was fully healed already, she still decided to heal his mind to ease his pain. She felt how truly alone he felt, even now, and she knew that the only way he would not feel alone anymore is if he got someone that would love him for him. That only made her remember something, as she slowly sat down on the floor, still being able to look over into the world. Amaterasu closed her eyes and entered Naruto's mind, for she wanted to speak to the beast that resists inside him. When she opened her eyes, she found herself in a dark place. There was water underneath here, but she didn't touch it, for she just kept hovering above the ground. Then she saw the huge cage and slowly approached it. That was when she heard a growl, which made her raise an eyebrow. "You dare growl at me?" came her angelic voice a bit loudly, almost as if she wanted to scream. This quickly got the beast's attention as he turned around from where he laid, only to have his jaw drop when he saw who it was that spoke to him. Amaterasu-sama," the Kyuubi yelled out in fear, bowing before the godly being. "To what do I own this pleasure?" he asked, still with his head bowed down. It would have made any other being, human, alien, or beast, laugh if they ever saw the strongest of the Biju acting like a scared little child. But then they would do the exact same, for the being in front of him would make anyone wet their pants. "Oh, I think you know. You have been awake for a while now. Ever since that accident," the goddess replied, but said the last part with a small venomous tone. That quickly caught the Kyuubi's attention, as he lifted his head and showed a small sign of worry, but also a lot more hatred than before. He worried about the human child to which he would now call his jailer, but he would never tell that to anyone. But he also felt more hatred towards the humans, especially those who tortured the small boy. Seeing that the Kyuubi didn't speak up, Amaterasu decided to speak again. "I also heard what you screamed on that day, and what you felt," she began, only to cross her arms and smile at the beast as she continued. "Never did I think a Biju, and you of all, would come to care for a human being. Seeing as how much you hate them, and everything they've done to you." That only got the Kyuubi to look away from the goddess, almost as if he was a child that got caught stealing cookies. He knew a small part of her power exceeded all of his, and he also knew never to speak up when she spoke or to make her angry. The Kyuubi also knew lying would be futile, so he turned his gaze upon her floating figure again before he spoke. "I hate the human, for all they did to me and my kind. They seal us up and take away our freedom. I wanted to escape this boy's seal also in time, but when I saw his memories and what those wretched lowlives did to him when I woke up, I got angry. More angry than I've ever been before, and I don't know why." Amaterasu just smiled, and ever decided to not voice his use of cuss words. She just nodded, before she spoke up yet again. "I believe that you did what you did, because you not only care for this boy, but you felt sorry for him. You know you can't lie to me, so I've came to a decision." This intrigued the Kyuubi quite a lot actually, for no one has ever gotten the goddess of the sun to even show any sort of interest in them. Well, not after Otsutsuki Kagaya and what she did. But then again, some of the stuff she did was good, but most were bad. To see her like this made him smile a little, and he also got more interested in what she would say. "When the time comes, and if Naruto shows he is ready, I will let him awaken his power that I have given to him. Though not all of it at once, for I have a lot of things I myself want to teach this boy when he becomes older." Amaterasu spoke in her angelic voice, which the Kyuubi could say he really liked and ever found beautiful himself. I also know that you destroyed his chakra, she continued, only to have the great fox lower his head in shame, but that was until she spoke up once more. I want to thank you for that, for it made it a bit easier for me to give him the eyes that he now has. Though I do know what you truly intended to do, but I also think you've changed your mind about that. Am I right? She asked, looking the QB dead in the eyes, to which he could only nod, too nervous to speak himself. Good. That only makes this a lot easier. Amaterasu then gave a small smile, only to continue speaking once more. When he gets older, in maybe a year or two, you will reveal yourself to him. But not only that, you will also help him with his control. I've seen the stupid exercises those humans do to be able to control their chakra, so I will let you decide how you're going to help him train in that. You don't have to train him in anything else if you don't want to, though it will be your, let's call it punishment, for destroying his human chakra and corrupting it with Biju chakra, she finished, making the tailed beast gulp as he nodded, only to speak his mind afterwards. I have already decided that I would do so, Amaterasu-sama. I do feel bad for doing that, so I will take responsibility for my actions. Though I want to see if he could prove a few things to me also. One being if he is the same as the other humans, not in heart like I now know he isn't for you being here. But I want to see if he is scared of me and what he would think of me also when the time comes, and also for what I did, the QB said, still looking at the floating woman on the other side of the cage. Amaterasu only nodded, for she knew he was right. She still wanted to test him in a few things herself, but knew that it would have to be a while for that to happen. She then turned around before she spoke one last time to the strongest Biju for the last time today. Then we will both see what happens in the future. Karama. The goddess then took her leave, only to open her eyes from where she sat on the floor as she stood up, looking down at the small boy in her arms who still had his eyes closed. If she stayed a little longer in Naruto's mind, she would have heard the Biju gasp, for she has never called any of them by their name, even if they all revealed it to her when they met. Amaterasu then looked down towards Kanehagakure again, for the 6th time this week. Each time she looked down, she would take a few seconds to look at each of the humans she met with before. She wanted to see how they were, but mostly what they were doing. She worried a little, not knowing how they would act knowing that someone like her truly does exist. Every time she looked at each and every one of them, she saw the same. Some of them changed a little as the week passed, but there was one thing they saw in each of them. They were all scared, except for the young girl who she spoke with, the only one who spoke up against her. The Hokage was trying to think of ways to help Naruto, but was more scared for knowing someone like she existed. The killer intent she let loose that day almost made them wet their pants. They still feared of what it could mean for them and what she was truly capable of. They also started to worry about their own existence, seeing as they thought she would erase them if they did something bad. What she didn't like was when she saw they thought she trapped them somehow. Pitiful humans, she thought, when she saw they had the same expressions as the day before. They all tried to act better, thinking they would get in her good side and maybe even receive a blessing of some sorts. Not even Jiraiya, who was a self-proclaimed super pervert, did anything perverted the entire week. Kakashi and Hiruzen also didn't even look at their orange perverted books, and only tried to be good. That really made her angry, but she decided to ignore them all. Except for Yuhi Kurenai, who is the only one between them all who acted still the same. She only showed a lot of concern for the little boy that the goddess still held in her arms. Never did the red-eye girl worry about what could happen to her, or what power Amaterasu had. Though she did show some hatred towards the people of her village, most specifically the civilians. She also spent a lot of time with another girl, someone who looked like to be of the same age, or maybe a bit older. Amaterasu didn't know, but she thought said woman with red eyes and the girl with light brown, pupilless eyes, short and spiky violet hair that is held in a fanned ponytail, could only be the former's friend. That made her smile, as she saw the two of them acting normal, especially the Yuhi girl. Though she did think if she was to make a close connection with Naruto, that she would have to look over them a bit more closely. For love is a strange thing, is the most amazing feeling when the person you love is with you. but could also cause the most hatred of feelings if said loved one was taken away from the other. Though everyone deserved to be loved and to have someone who cares for them in a more than just friendly way. The goddess didn't want to make any assumptions, for she never really even cared what happened between a man and a woman. But what she did find weird was when said girl with red eyes was being followed by the other man who was in the same room, the only that had a small beard and who was definitely older by a few years at least. Someone is clearly not a stalker, she thought in a sarcastic tone, only to continue to look at them once more. The man with the small beard looked to be trying to get the girl's attention. But each time the girl would tell him to go away and for him to think about that, Amaterasu said. Though she didn't say that part when she had company. For they all knew not to speak about the godly being in front of other people. For they may not reveal what they knew to anyone else, and at least they kept that to themselves. Tomorrow I have to take you back, I guess. My little love ball, Amaterasu told the boy in her arms, who she still kept asleep. Over the past 6 days, she started to grow fond of the boy in his arms. She never let him go, even when she ate or bathed or anything else. She didn't have to do any of those, for she's a goddess, but she wanted to do them, 'cause what else would she do? Amaterasu was alone for so very long, until she decided to bring Naruto up to her place with her. She also decided to call him cute nicknames, because even though he's been sleeping the entire time, she knew he could hear her, for she allowed it. Night came and gone, as she went spend the rest of the time with Naruto yet again. She poked to him at times and other times just looked at him. Then she would just walk around, for her palace truly is huge and had a lot of gardens that she created out of nothing. When the sun came up again, she just looked straight into it. For another else, that would have blinded them instantly. But not her, for she is the goddess of the sun. She created the massive thing so she could look at it all she want whenever she wanted to. Sigh, I guess I have to take you back today, my little love ball. I truly hope you never hate. If I see that you don't, then I'll even let you come here whenever you want to, she said with a smile while looking at the sleeping child, only to place a small kiss on his nose, then on both his closed eyes. I'll also train you myself then, for I have made another decision last night, the goddess finished speaking, only to disappear from where she stood. A few minutes prior, Jiraiya, Kakashi, and everyone else arrived at the Hokage's office. Hiruzen ordered his ANBU to leave the room, then for his son to close the door. He then placed a privacy seal on the ground, only for them all to gasp as a light came from behind them yet again, just like the last time. They all know that it would happen, but still they were surprised. When Sarutobi Hiruzen saw who hovered at the back of the room once more, he gulped. Everyone then bowed to her, before they all greeted her in unison. Morning, Amaterasu-sama, said goddess. They sighed before she nodded, telling them to lift their head. They all did so, but some slower than others. Then Hiruzen looked at Naruto, as he wanted to speak up, only to be interrupted by the only other female in the room. How's Naruto-kun? Is he only Amaterasu-sama? She asked, her voice full of concern, to which the goddess smiled, nodding at her question. She half expected her to be the first one to speak, and she was glad that she was right. Even more so to see the worry in her eyes for the small boy in her arms. The Hokage then took the time to speak after he saw the goddess nod at Kurenai's question, gulping before he began. Amaterasu-sama, thank you for coming back and giving us time to think, the old man began, only to stop when he saw the look in the eyes of the godly being he spoke to. Do you take me for a fool? I know what each and every single one of you did this entire week. You do well to remember to whom you speak to. I know you all, even though that maybe I was related to the one you call Rikudo Sannin. That only disgusts me. Let me make this clear to you mortals. That man was nothing compared to me. Not even his mother was anything compared to me. They called themselves godly, but they were not. Humans, or in their case, aliens who call themselves godly, receive a very harsh treatment when they die that will last forever. Those who think themselves as gods will be punished, she said in a harsh tone, letting it sink into them that what they all knew about the Rikudo Sannin was a lie. Said man wasn't a godly being, and only this woman in front of them is. Amaterasu then looked at all of them again, one by one. The Hokage seemed to be very nervous, for he feared her power. The man known as Jiraiya seemed to be even more nervous, but only because he hadn't done anything perverted this entire week and it was getting to him, especially when he saw the most beautiful woman he's ever seen once again. Hatake Kakashi seemed to be scared, but tried to hide it under his mask. Madogai just stood there, looking at the goddess as if he was thinking of how strong this woman really was. But he knew not to speak his mind, lest he wanted to die. Sarutobi Asuma has a few things on his mind, as he was also wanted to smoke but decided against it, for he didn't want to upset another woman. The first being Kurenai. Said girl was still confusing him a lot. He knew she was a lot younger than him, but they were ninja. And when you graduate, to which she already did the previous year, made it legal to be in a romantic relationship with her. Plus, she wasn't that much younger than him, and he did find her very attractive. Thought Kurenai didn't find anything interesting about the younger Sarutobi member. He annoyed her a lot, especially when he would ask her out on a date, which would always be a no. Asuma didn't know why, but she would never say yes to him. Before the Naruto incident, it almost did seem like she would say yes to him only to be rejected yet again. Each time she rejected him, his felt esteem would fall a little, only to grow once more when some random woman told him how hot he was. Then he would try again with her, which would really make the red-eyed girl angry. Said red-eyed girl is the only one among them right now that didn't look scared. Well, not scared of Amaterasu anyway, but scared for Naruto and his well-being. That made the godly being smile when she looked at the younger girl. The goddess then looked at the Hokage once more before she spoke once again. Now I want to know what you've decided, if you have anything to say that is, and speak freely, for this fear I'm sensing off of all of you is really getting me irritated. That only made them all, excluding Kurenai, gulp in response. The Sandaime Hokage then spoke once more while looking at the hovering being. I have came to a decision, Amaterasu-sama, he became, only to gulp once more before he continued. I will get Naruto a place of his own, a place where he will be safe. I would have really won dash. That was all the older man could say before he felt like throwing up, as Amaterasu let only a little of her killer intent out. You dare? How dumb are you? You think these people of this town would leave him alone? How pathetic. And let me guess. You can't let him stay with any of you because it's against the rules. The goddess said, feeling more angry than the last time she spoke with the people in the room. Everyone, excluding Kurenai, fell to their knees. Some, being Guy, Kakashi, and Asuma, did throw up from the massive amount of killer intent that same from the godly being in front of them. The only reason why Kurenai didn't fall to her knees is because Amaterasu waited for her to reply. She didn't let her killer intent reach the small girl, for she saw the look of anger in her eye. Speak, girl. I know you want to say something. Kurenai just nodded, not even gulping like the rest did as she began to speak. Sandaime-sama did tell us about his decision, and it got me really angry. For, she said, looking at the older man who was just barely standing from the amount of killer intent, of which Amaterasu drew back, making the rest feel like they could breathe again. I want to take him with me. I know I don't have much to give, for I don't have parents anymore. They died when the Kyuubi attacked our village, the red-eyed girl continued, fighting back the tears that threatened to fall to the memory of her parents. She then looked into the eyes of the godly being in front of her as she continued once again. But that didn't make me hate Naruto-kun. He never asked for any of this. It shocked me when I learned the truth of what happened, but I loved his mother for she taught me a lot. So now, I want to teach what I can to her son, and if you'd allow it, I'd love to take care of him and even eventually become his friend. He can live with me, if the Hokage-sama allows is. That made the goddess smile, for she saw the truth of the words the young girl spoke. No one else even dared to speak up, which made Amaterasu regret revealing herself to them all. At least I have made up my mind about that, she thought to herself before she looked at the old man, waiting for him to voice his opinion. You sure about that, Kurenai? Sarutobi Hiruzen asked, looking at the young girl and the only one who voiced her opinion to the godly being in front of them. Everyone else was stunned by the as well, especially Asuma. He didn't know why, but that thought made him feel weird. Amaterasu just smiled before she looked at the younger girl once more. Everything that concerns Uzumaki Naruto doesn't concern the Hokage anymore. Or anyone else for that matter. You all failed him and also his parents. I know what you all promised his parents, and none of you ever lived up to your promise, she said, making them all feel more guilty than before. The goddess then smiled as she looked at the sleeping Naruto in her arms, before she said something that shocked everyone to the core. I know his mother, and she is looking down upon him. She cares for him and so does his father. But I will not allow my son to be with people who breaks their promises. That shocked everyone beyond belief. Even the Kyuubi heard this, as he nearly fell to his side from what she said. Amaterasu of all beings claiming a human boy as her son. Now that was unheard of. The Kyuubi just smirk. This kid. Interesting. The Sandaime then decided to voice his opinion of what she just said. Why? Your son, was all he could say, for nothing else came to mind. Amaterasu just smiled before she nodded, only to speak in his angelic voice once more. Yes, my son. I may not have given birth to him, but when I gave him the power he now old, he became my son. But also not in the way you human think. His mother is and always will be Uzumaki Kushina. I just really love his boy, so I decided to look over him, like you would call a guardian angel. Though he is more my angel than I am his, to be honest, she finished, looking at the small boy who now had a small smile on his face, but still sleeping. He can stay with you, Yuhi Kurenai, for I trust him with you. I will keep my eyes on him still. More so because I believe you will eventually fall in love with him, Amaterasu said with a smirk, which shocked Kurenai and everyone else, but more so Asuma, who passed out from what she said. What? Kurenai said, utterly confused. That only made the goddess giggle, something she has never done before either. Don't worry. The future is full of mystery, she concluded, only to look at them all again before she looked at the passed-out man, sighing a bit loudly to wake the man from his passed-out state. It worked, but he was shocked still from what she told them. Though Amaterasu didn't give anyone else a chance to speak, as she slowly began to rise into the air, a massive light came from her again. But before she let her power out to do what she wanted to do, she spoke one last time to everyone in the room. If something happens to Naruto again before he turns 6, I will come back to show you what real fear feels like. She finished before the massive white light filled the entire room, which caused them all to fall unconscious. All except Yuhi Kurenai. Amaterasu then looked at her, smiling slightly. Take care of him, she said, only for Kurenai to fall unconscious herself. They all then disappeared from where they laid. The only thing they left behind were all the memories they all had of the goddess. Everyone had their memory erased, then teleported to their homes and into their beds. But they also got a few fake memories, ones they would remember when they woke up again. It will only take a couple of hours for that to happen, as Amaterasu then left herself. The only one left in the room was the Hokage, who looks like he fell asleep in his chair. The goddess also made sure no one else could hear any of them then entire time, even with the privacy seal they placed on the floor. She then went to where Yuhi Kurenai lives, entering her apartment. No one saw her, for she made it so that no one could see or feel her presence if she didn't want them to. The last thing she did before leaving was placing Naruto next to a sleeping Kurenai, who laid in her bed with a smile on her face. She was the only one who would still remember the goddess when she woke up, but she would also have a few of her memories gone. Mostly the part about Amaterasu saying that she would eventually fall in love with Naruto, for she wanted them all to make their own choices. Naruto would always remember her voice, and also everything else she said. The Kyuubi would also remember everything, for she didn't take any of his memories away. She then looked at Naruto before she poked to him one last time before she left. You will be the only one I will ever truly trust, Naruto. When you become of age and prove yourself a little more to me, I will reveal everything to you. I will never hide anything from you once you show me how you'll be when you're a bit older. But I will also let you be able to restore everyone's memories when the time comes, and if you'd wish for it to happen. Until then, Uzumaki Naruto. I love you so much, my little love ball, she told the small sleeping boy, kissing him on the cheek before she disappeared, going back to her palace, her domain. Naruto continued to sleep, but with a little bigger smile on his face. His eyes opened a little before that, revealing something that would shock the world. Both eyes had red sclerosis and irides, with a ripple pattern spreading all over each eyeball. And if one would have looked closely, meaning could see the entire eyeball, one would have seen 9 black tomo, 3 on each circle in his eyes, making 18 tomo in total. But that disappeared, revealing his normal color of eyes, which is a light color mix between black and white, with a tint of red in it also. Soon after that, Uzumaki Naruto fell asleep while in the arms of a sleeping Yuhi Kurenai who would have a huge surprise when she wakes up. The Kyuubi was the last one to voice his opinion to himself, but one with great shock. Those eyes. Home. The following day in Kanehagakure was a normal day for everyone in the village, except for a few people. Those people being the ones that got their memories altered the previous day, woke up with a splitting headache. The Hokage was still in his office, for his secretary didn't think of waking the old man when she found him asleep in his chair. She knew he was safe because he had Anbu with him at all times. Even they didn't take to wake Hiruzen from his sleep, thinking that their Hokage most likely needed the rest. Only Kurenai had a small headache, for she only lost a few memories that got replaced with new ones if it was needed. The rest of the people who lost their memories the previous day of Amaterasu also got new memories, courtesy of the goddess herself. Said goddess was currently in her palace once again, in her realm that only she could reach. She decided to see what would happen once she left Naruto with the village again, and if they would take care of him. She herself would have taken Naruto to raise him, but knew she couldn't, for she's a goddess and couldn't take care of a human being. 1 being she's never raised or taken care of anyone, and 2 being that she couldn't interfere with humans again. But she knew that when the time came, that she would reveal herself to Naruto once more, but only for the purpose of helping him with the power she gave him. She loved the little red-haired boy, but knew that she had to keep her distance for the time being. Kurenai, on the other hand, didn't have to keep her distance from Naruto, for said young boy was currently sobbing softly while laying in the arms of the Red Eyes girl. It was the sobbing that got the young girl to awake from her sleep, only to be shocked for a mere second. Naruto? She said, seeing the young boy in her arms. That shock only lasted a few seconds, for she then remembered how said young boy was currently with her. Just like everyone else, Kurenai also had her memory replaced, but only to an extent. She remembered a few things of Amaterasu, for said goddess allowed her to remember her, but only a little bit. But Kurenai did pay much mind to it, for she then remembered everything else and that she would be taking care of Naruto for as long as the council and the Hokage allowed it. The rest who knew about Amaterasu now knew nothing of her once more, just like before they met her. Their memories were altered a lot and had completely new ones. Ones that weren't true, but ones that the goddess gave them in order for them to continue with their lives like before. The memories they got were still of Naruto, but just different ones. Their new memories were of Naruto getting beaten once again on his birthday. A few civilians got to him after the orphanage threw him out again. They then took him into an alley where no one could see them, and started to beat the young boy till he became unconscious. An ANBU on patrol then found said group of civilians, and helped the young boy to the hospital. Although he really didn't want to, he knew that if he didn't help Naruto, that they would be executed for letting them continue with what they did with the young red-haired boy. Naruto only had a few cuts and bruises, but also a few broken bones all around his body. Hiruzen got angry at this, and punished the people for breaking the law that he made in order to protect the Yondaime Hokage's son. Not many of them had the same memories, but they all heard of Naruto being hospitalized. Though no one went to visit the young boy, for they didn't know him and thought that it would be better if they just stayed away from him. Only Hiruzen and Jiraiya went to visit him, but that only happened once while Naruto was in the hospital. For he didn't stay there long enough for them to visit him every day, but the rest of the memories they got were still a bit bothersome to some. Hiruzen had agreed a few days ago that Kurenai could take care of Naruto, and that surprised not only the Hokage himself, but also the councilman. But they all agreed to it when Hiruzen told them about Naruto being thrown out yet another orphanage, then to get beaten into unconsciousness. If we continue to let this happen, the Kyuubi will eventually break out of the seal. We have to protect Naruto, for protecting him protects the village was what the old Hokage told them, and it was that idea that made them agree. No one of them wanted the Kyuubi to escape from his prison, but they still didn't like that someone would be taking care of the young boy. The reason for that being that they didn't want their precious weapon to be corrupted, and in a way that they wouldn't be able to control him when he gets older. But those were only the thoughts of a few of the councilmen, namely Mitokado Hamura, Udatane Koharu, and Shimura Danzo. But Danzo didn't voice what he wanted to say, as he just agreed to having Kurenai take care of the young boy. Though he still wanted the boy for himself so that he could use him, he decided to wait and be patient. The day will come when I will take Uzumaki Naruto and use him to become the Hokage. Though a few of the other council members were a bit against this also, but they only wanted the Kyuubi for themselves or its container, for they wanted to show the rest how strong their clans truly are, even if said thoughts only came from the head of the Uchiha clan and the Hyuga clan. Everyone else just thought it was a bit weird, seeing as Kurenai is a very young girl herself, and didn't know if it was possible for her to take care of a boy of 3 years old. Remember, she may be young, but she is very mature for her age and also a very good Genjutsu user. I know that doesn't say much about how she could raise Naruto, but I'm willing to give her a change. If things doesn't work out, then I'll think of something else, was what he told them when he made the decision, to which they all agreed to. Now Kurenai had her chance to show them how truly dedicated she was to raise Naruto and help him grow. Even though she was young and had a few responsibilities, she wanted to take care of Kushina's child. So her day started off better than she had thought it would, minus the headache that is. That was until Naruto started crying a little louder, to which she quickly got up from her bed. "What's wrong, Naruto-kun? Are you okay?" she asked, already forgotten that he couldn't speak very well. Naruto, for his part, didn't know what to think. He might be a 3-year-old, but he knew what some feelings were, for he has experienced it since the day he was born. He was currently crying because he was scared. Naruto didn't know where he was and didn't know how he got here. All he could remember was the pain he felt when he nearly died and everything else before that. A normal baby or 3-year-old wouldn't have remembered things like that, but it got drilled into his head. There hasn't been a day that he wasn't either sad or crying, and he was now scared yet again. He opened his eyes and saw the red-eyed girl looking at him, but for the first time ever, he saw something he hasn't seen in the eyes of anyone else. The girl looked at him with concern. She looked like she was actually worried about him, so that made him cry a bit less. Naruto still sobbed though, for he didn't feel safe. He's never felt safe before, and he has always felt alone. Kurenai saw this, thinking he might be scared of her. She, like everyone else that got summoned to the Kage Tower a little more than a week ago, was told of how cruel people were to him and what has happened in his life so far. "It's okay, Naruto-kun. I won't hurt you. I promise," Kurenai said in the most comforting tone she could muster, trying to ease him so that he didn't feel scared. "I know you can't talk much, so just listen to my voice, okay?" she asked Naruto, who had stopped crying when heard her beautiful voice. "Okay, good. Now I'm gonna pick you up. Is that okay?" Kurenai asked once more, trying to be as gentle as she could. Naruto didn't know how to answer, so he just nodded. He was thought only 2 words in his entire life so far. Those words being yes and no. He didn't feel the pain he felt the last time when he nearly died, so he thought that this young lady that was currently picking him up was the one that helped him and healed him. Naruto knew a lot of words, but couldn't speak them. He picked up a few words since he could first speak, but wasn't giving a chance to learn how to use them. He heard other people speak and just listened. Some of the words he still didn't know what they meant, but he figured that if he nodded, that it would be a sign of saying yes. Kurenai now had Naruto in her arms once again, as she made her way to the kitchen. This worried Naruto a little bit, to which Kurenai felt right away when his heart rate began to speed up. "It's okay, Naruto-kun. I'm just gonna make us both something to eat. You're a little boy, and you need good and healthy food to become big and strong. Like me," she told him with a smile on her face. This got a small smile from the boy, something he has never done before. "Yes," was his reply, for he didn't know what else to say. When Kurenai heard this, she nearly dropped the young boy. "Why? You can speak, Naruto-kun?" she asked, clearly showing how shocked she was. She was told that he couldn't speak, for he was never taught how to speak and was also, most of the time, locked away so that he couldn't hear what the other people spoke about. The only times he could hear people speak was when he needed either his diapers changed or when he got the disgusting food that they fed him. "Yes," came the voice of Naruto once again, looking at the older lady when she helped him in front of her. Kurenai was really happy at that, but also a bit sad. She was happy because he could say something at least, but sad because of him being 3 years old and could only say one word. She figured that he could say no at least also, so she tried to see if that was correct. "Can you say anything else?" she asked, looking him straight in the eyes. Naruto just looking into her eyes also, which he liked to look at when he saw how red they were. Everyone else's eyes he saw were either some weird color or brown. "Yes, no," he replied, saying the only 2 words he could speak. "Aw, you're so cute," Kurenai said with a slight giggle in her voice, only to nuzzle his nose with her own. But that only made Naruto sneeze, for it tickled him. Kurenai giggled from his reaction, then went to look into his eyes once more. "I'm going to take care of you from now on, okay?" she told him, only to continue speaking. "And I won't let anyone hurt you. I'm a strong ninja, and I will protect you. All you gotta do is stay by my side." This made Naruto smile, nodding to what she told him. For some reason, the young red-haired boy felt more comfortable here than at the places he stayed at before. No one has ever told him anything like that, let alone speak to him much. The day continued on good for the two, as they even got a visit from a few people during the day. Their first visit was from Jiraiya, for he just wanted to see his godson. Naruto didn't know how to act around the old white-haired man, but he didn't cry when said man came through the door. Jiraiya had brought them, or more specifically Naruto, a small book which would help him learn how to speak. But he gave said book to Kurenai, for she told him that she would learn him everything that a 3-year-old should already know, such as speaking and even how to use the bathroom if he needed to go. Naruto couldn't walk also, so he just crawled around the entire house when Kurenai either made herself something to eat or when someone came to visit them. Jiraiya stayed only for a little while, for he didn't know how to handle kids or babies. The second person to visit them was Asuma, but he mostly came to visit Kurenai and tried to ask her out on a date, to which she would just glare at him before asking him as nicely as she could to leave. Kurenai didn't mind talking to Asuma or any other male, even if they were older than her, but she didn't like anyone, for she had a couple of reasons for that. The first being that she hated perverts. She knew Asuma, just like Kakashi, was and still is a pervert, for she had caught said men with orange books. That was the sign that only perverted people read. Her second reason for not liking anyone was that she wanted to focus on becoming stronger as a kunoichi. Kurenai, even at the age of 10, is one of the strongest genjutsu users in Konoha. The only people who were truly better at it were the people from the Uchiha clan, which some people sometimes mistook her for. She knew she could get even better at it, and what is why she wanted to stay away from other people. She had her best friend who is the same age as her, but they didn't always have time for one another. Not that they were kunoichi at their age. Kurenai and Anko were among the youngest to ever graduate from the shinobi school, the youngest ever being Uchiha Itachi. But when they graduated, they were both told to wait till they were 12 before they were assigned to a team or could even start missions. They both did D-ranked missions every now and then, for they needed the money and the Hokage allowed them to do said missions, for it was inside the village at least. She knew it would take even more money to raise Naruto and teach him a few things along the way, But that was where Jiraiya came in yet again to help. He told the young girl that he was willing to help with the money problems, seeing as he was already a published writer and made good money from it. Kurenai agreed to that and thanked the older man greatly for it. When asked the reason for why he was willing to help with the money, all reply she got was, "Because I am his godfather, and because I also failed his father. So I hope in this way, it helps make up for me not being there for him the last 3 years," to which Kurenai just nodded, not wanting to get into it too much. Asuma left when he was told to do so, but their third visit shocked them both. Naruto knew who the person was, for said person had treated him with kindness since he could remember. Kurenai was shocked because she didn't expect said person to visit them so soon. She bowed to show her gratitude, and also because everyone who stood before this person had to do so. "Hokage-sama, I didn't expect you to visit us so soon," the red-eyed girl said, standing straight after a few seconds. The Sandaime Hokage just smiled before he gave his answer. "I'm just making sure you and little Naruto-kun settled in nicely with one another." Kurenai just nodded, smiling herself before she went to pick up the young boy. The Hokage spoke off. "He seems better, Hokage-sama. Also, he spoke to me earlier today for one. So I'm hoping that's a good sign." This shocked the old Hokage, for he was never told that Naruto could speak. When he tried to speak to him when he visited him on his birthdays, Naruto never said anything. "Really? Well, what did he say?" Hiruzen asked while looking at the red-haired boy in Kurenai's arms. "Well, that's the sad part. He can only say yes and no from what I could make out so far," Kurenai replied, hugging Naruto a little. But that action shocked the young boy a lot, for no one has ever done something like that to him before. Kurenai felt this once again, and again from his heart rate raising. "It's okay, Naruto-kun. It's just a hug. It's something people do to one another to comfort each other," she told him, looking back at the Hokage afterwards. When she saw his facial expression, she knew what she would have to explain a bit more. "He gets scared easily, Hokage-sama. Every new thing I do with him scares him, so I have to explain to him what it is in order for him to know that I won't hurt him," she said in a soft yet sad tone, for she didn't like how a 3-year-old boy was scared of every new thing that he experienced, even something as simple as a hug. That also got the Hokage sad, but he quickly got over it as he looked down at the young girl. "That's okay, Kurenai-chan. I know you won't hurt him, and I hope he will learn to know it soon too. I just wanted to make sure everything is okay, and I also came to ask you one last time. Are you okay with this?" Kurenai immediately knew what the older man was talking about, as she immediately answered with a nod before replying. "I am Hokage-sama. I know I'm very young, but please trust me when I say I'll take care of Naruto. I owe it to her, and I just know Naruto-kun and I will become great friends," she replied with a smile, already thinking of being Naruto's very first friend. Hiruzen smiled at this, nodding afterwards as he placed a hand on Kurenai's shoulder. "If only there were more people like you in this village," he spoke with a genuine happy tone. He was very glad that there was someone like Kurenai in Konoha that was willing to take care of Naruto and treat him like a human being. "I will now take my leave, Kurenai-chan. I hope you have a great day with Naruto-kun," he told her once more, turning around and heading straight out of the room. But before he closed said door, he turned around one last time. "Oh, and before I forget, I assigned Kakashi and Asuma to check up on you every now and then, just to make sure you're doing okay. I know you can take care of yourself and will be able to take care of Naruto, but this village still hasn't gotten over the attack. They will still treat Naruto very badly whenever they get the change to, that much I know now. No matter what, they won't follow my law that protects Naruto. And I know I can't execute everyone who does him harm, but they all at least respect me and know what I'm capable of. So that ought to lessen the chance of him getting hurt," Hiruzen said with a serious face while looking at Naruto. "What I unfortunately can't stop is all the name-calling, to which I hope he can handle as he gets older," was the last thing he said, giving Kurenai a short change to say something before he closed the door behind him. "I will make sure he is okay, Hokage-sama. Thank you for the visit," she replied as Hiruzen just smiled before he closed the door, heading back to his office. The rest of the day was peaceful for the two who now lived in Kurenai's apartment. She fed him when he was hungry and began to teach him how to speak more. Kurenai knew it would be a long process, but an even longer one for her to teach him how to read. But while everything happened the entire day, someone else had their eyes on the pair the entire time. Interesting human came the voice of the Kyuubi, but he mostly spoke to himself. When night fell upon Kanehagakure, everything seemed fine. Well, the only places that currently wasn't fine was in the house of Kurenai and Naruto. For said young girl was currently trying to get Naruto in the bath, as she wanted to clean him, but Naruto didn't want to do it, for he was scared of water. "Come on, Naruto-kun, I just want to clean you. Please don't be scared. I won't hurt you," she told the young boy, for she already figured that he was scared of the water. Naruto didn't want to be drowned, and that got her even more sad. "No," Naruto said, a little loudly at that also, but he was sobbing too, which made Kurenai give up. "Okay, how about I join you then?" she asked him, to which Naruto stopped struggling to try and crawl away. He looked up at the older girl and nodded slowly when he looked into her eyes. "Oh, okay," Naruto replied. Kurenai then set Naruto on the floor, as she quickly got out of her clothes and placed them beside her. She then picked Naruto up, who didn't struggle anymore, as he and Kurenai then got into the bathtub. "See, isn't this much better?" she asked the young boy, as he just nodded his head slowly while sitting on Kurenai's lap. After that, she began to wash both of them but started with him. When she was done, she washed herself while keeping Naruto in her lap. Said red-haired boy then leaned forward, as he was facing her. He remembered the hug she gave him, and thought that he wanted to try it also. When Kurenai felt this, she nearly got shocked out of her skin. She immediately stopped washing herself and looked at Naruto, who was trying to hug her. This got the young red-eyed girl to start crying, but her tears with tears of happiness. She immediately hugged Naruto back, holding him close to her. "You're so cute, Naruto-kun. I'm so glad to have you with me," she told him while still hugging him. After a while they separated from the hug, but Naruto still sat on her lap. Kurenai then continued to wash herself, but finished as soon as she could. When she was done, she quickly dried Naruto, then herself. Afterwards, she got something to eat for herself, and also made something that was good enough for a 3-year-old to eat. Naruto didn't mind eating the food she gave him, for it was a lot better than what he usually for. Kurenai even fed him when he struggled to eat, but was only once as he then got the hang of it. When they went to bed, Kurenai and Naruto just stayed awake for a little bit while looking at the roof. The moonlight lit the room through the window, so they could see almost everything in the room. Luckily, Kurenai had a big bed, which was more than big enough for the both of them. "Naruto-kun, I know this might sound strange and you probably don't know what it is yet, but you want to be friends?" she asked him while currently looking at him with a smile on her face. Naruto didn't know what that meant, but just nodded to give her an answer. That made Kurenai smile, as she then brought Naruto a bit close to her so that she was holding him once again before they both slept. She also knew that they both had a long road ahead of them, and Naruto for one was glad that someone didn't hurt him once the entire day. Soon they both slept with Naruto in her arms once again, and Kurenai had a small smile on her face. She knew that she would have to teach Naruto what the meaning of friendship was when he gets older, but she was glad that he accepted it already at his current age. Kurenai also knew that she could have let Naruto be like her younger brother, but for some reason that she didn't know, she wanted him to be her friend. She did promise Amaterasu to be his friend, so she just figured that was the reason. But she also knew that she wanted him as her friend, for she didn't have many friends herself. Anko was a different case, for they've known each other since they started at the academy. They slowly became best friends, but also a bit more like sisters too. She would have to explain a few things to her best friend when she came to visit her, but she didn't know when that would be, so she just decided to handle it when the time came. That time came 2 days later. Then Mitarashi Anko decided to visit her best friend. At first she was shocked when Kurenai told her as much as she could about Naruto, for she knew that she couldn't tell her everything. Kurenai already had forgotten about Amaterasu already, as she didn't have much time to think about the goddess and also didn't want to. Anko was really glad at it all, and even offered to help Kurenai with Naruto as much as she could. That only got Kurenai more happy, accepting her best friend's offer. Some of the things that she told her spiky-haired friend got her upset, but quickly got over it. That day Naruto got himself someone he would one day call his sister, as the relationship between him, Kurenai, and Anko began. 2 years later, since the time Kurenai offered to take care of Naruto, a lot changed. Kurenai herself got a bit more friendly with people, as she wanted her best friend, Uzumaki Naruto, to be friendly too. She knew that as he gets older, that he would change, but she hoped that he would always stay the lovable red-haired boy she met from in the arms of the sun goddess. Naruto himself changed a lot also, but mostly his height. He grew a little over the years as Kurenai made sure he got the right food to eat. Kurenai could very angry when she wanted to be, and Naruto experienced that firsthand when she tried to feed him broccoli and other vegetables. He didn't like the taste very much, but soon began to like it as she gave it to him more and more. Kurenai herself grew a bit in her height also, for she is still a growing young girl. She also thought that maybe she and Naruto should have a brother-sister bond, but after the 2 years, that became something that she didn't ever think about again. Naruto became her best friend, other than Anko that is. She loved spending time with him as she did so a lot. She even taught him how to speak, and was still busy teaching him how to read. Though that was only because Naruto didn't really understand bigger words just yet. But Kurenai tried her best to teach him everything he needed to know. She herself trained as much as she could, but with Naruto with her at all times. The villagers, on the other hand, still stayed the same with the way they treated Naruto. They still called him a demon most of the times, which got the young boy sad. Kurenai would then get really angry, as she even wanted to hurt the people who hurt Naruto with their words a few times. But she knew that she couldn't, for she was not a full-fledged kunoichi along with Anko. Anko herself grew a bit too. She loved Naruto as a brother, and even teased him a lot of times. Naruto didn't truly understand why she would tease a 5-year-old boy, but just played along as he thought it was a game. The three of them spend a lot of time together, and Naruto even began to see what a shinobi was. Kurenai and Anko would spar with one another a lot, while having Naruto watch them. He found it really fun to watch, but even more so when his best friend would win against his older sister. Though he never chose a side, even if they both asked him to pick someone he thinks would win before they began to spar. But he never did, in fear of hurting the other's emotions if he chose wrongly. Kurenai and Anko just smiled at that, knowing he didn't want to hurt either of them. Even if Naruto didn't see Anko as much as he saw Kurenai, mostly because he was still living with her, he still got to see her every now and then and also began to see Anko as his sister. Naruto loved them both, but if he was to ask who he loved more, he would answer the very obvious question to which they did ask him before. Naruto-kun, who do you love more? Anko asked, teasing the boy a little bit by leaning close to his ear, blowing softly into it as she spoke. Kurenai, for some reason, didn't like it when Anko would do things like that, even if it was really harmless and Naruto is still just a 5-year-old boy. Kurenai-chan, Naruto replied with full of pride, for he didn't see what the big deal was of who he loved more. He had learned from Kurenai what love it, and he also felt it in his heart every time he was with both girls. Just somewhat more when he was with Kurenai than with Anko. Ah, Naruto-kun, Kurenai said with a giggle, lifting him up and giving him a big hug to which he would return. Anko would just put then when he gave his answer, but Naruto then went to her and held his arms out, asking her to pick him up. She would hesitate for a little bit, teasing him in doing so, but then she would eventually pick him up as they hugged afterwards. I love you too, Anko Wunshin, Naruto said, causing both girls to smile. You're too cute for your own good. You know that, Otudo? Anko said while hugging Naruto. But I guess I love you too, she told him, teasing him yet again with the word guess. Kurenai would just giggle at the sight, as Naruto would then go back to sitting on the ground and watch as the two older girls began to spar yet again. Naruto would just watch the both of them till they tire themselves out. Then he would go home with Kurenai afterwards when they were done. The two of them gave their goodbyes each time to Anko as said girl would return to her own apartment. But during the walk home, Naruto would always get the same glares that everyone always seemed to give him. He didn't like it but decided to ignore him. But each time someone would call him a demon, his heart would ache and he would start sobbing. Naruto still didn't know why they would call him that, or why they would call him any other bad name. Kurenai would just pick him up at this, hiding his face against her chest as they headed home. She would always get angry at the people, which she would show by using a small but scary genjutsu on a few people. The Hokage had caught her with it once, and told her to not do it again. But that was in front of people. When they were alone, he would tell her that he really didn't care. It's just a harmless genjutsu she would use on them, which was actually funny for the older man. Hiruzen visited the both of them from time to time, along with Kakashi and Asuma as well. But every time Asuma would visit them, he would try to flirt with Kurenai, and that really got Naruto angry for some reason that he didn't know. Naruto would throw stuff at him, like his stuffed toys that Kurenai bought for him on his birthday. Asuma would leave afterwards, for Kurenai would tell him that he really shouldn't flirt with someone who didn't feel the same way about him. After some time, the older man began to accept it, but he still asked Kurenai if they could be friends. She agreed to that, but also told him that she wouldn't talk to him if he kept reading those perverted orange books. He gave it up after a while, but then he started smoking more. Kurenai didn't even bother telling him how bad it was for his health, as long as he didn't smoke it anywhere near her or Naruto. She had even tried to get Kakashi to stop reading the smut orange books, but he never listened. All she would tell him then, and in a very scary voice, that if he valued his manhood he would stay away from Naruto with those perverted books. The same went for Jiraiya, as she even tried to kick him between the legs a few times when said older man would try and tell Naruto perverted jokes. They all began to really know how much she hated perverts, as she would get Anko to burn their precious Ika paradise that they owned. Anko would always do it with love, and always had a venomous snake around her neck when she would do so, with a really insane smirk on her face. Months passed as Naruto grew even more, and Kurenai would teach Naruto even more of how to read and what certain would meant. She just hoped that he would get the talk from someone else, as she really didn't want to be the one to do it. Kurenai remembered when her mother told her about the birds and the bees and all that came with it, for her mother believed that a girl should know about that stuff at a very young age, seeing that they are in a world of shinobis. At least it's still a long time before that has to happen, I hope, she thought to herself. She had taught Naruto everything she thought he would know by now, and it made her happy that he was a fast learner. Some would think they were brother and sister or even something of the sorts, but she would just correct them by saying that they were just best friends and that she only wanted to give Kushina something in return by looking after Naruto, to which she did. Naruto sometimes still got hurt by the villagers, and that wasn't just words. Sometimes they would throw rocks at the young boy, and that is when Kurenai would really get angry. She would threaten the person in a very scary voice tone, even one she didn't know she had. Though when Anko would hear about it, said civilian would be heard screaming that same night. He would then claim to the shinobi that investigated that he was attacked by snakes. They instantly knew who did it to the poor old civilian, but they would then just ignore it. For everyone began to fear Anko and her snakes. She helped Kurenai in teaching Naruto how to read and even how to write, but always found it really boring. Anko would then try to make it interesting in a weird way that involved her summoning her snakes, but Kurenai would always stop her. Naruto began to read and write more while talking even better. He loved learning new things, even for a 5-year-old. He even told Kurenai once during their regular bath sessions that he wanted to become a shinobi like she was. When you're 6, Naruto-kun, then we'll start with that, okay? But that road is very dangerous, and also you'll have to work very hard if you want to become strong, Kurenai told him, as Naruto just nodded and gave her the answer that shocked her. I want to become big and strong, so that I can protect you and Anko Wunshin, he told her. But then she would laugh when he said, even though she can be very scary at times. 1 year later, Naruto continued to learn how to read and write better, but tomorrow would be a very special day for him. For tomorrow is the day Uzumaki Naruto would turn 6, and he started loving his birthdays when he started living with Kurenai. Though each year on his birthday, Kurenai would activate a genjutsu on their home, for the villagers still tried to hunt him when it was his birthday. He asked her a few times why they did that and even why they called him all the mean things they still do, to which she told him that when he gets older, he would get his answers and she will tell him everything if someone else didn't before then. Over the years, Naruto began to look up to Hiruzen in some ways, for he learned from Kurenai that the Sandaime Hokage was the strongest shinobi in the village. Some would argue and say that he is the strongest shinobi alive, and that really got Naruto's interest. He thought of wanting to become the Hokage, and he would tell Kurenai that he thinks his dreams is to one day become the Hokage so that everyone in the village treats him better, but more so treat her better too. For Kurenai didn't suffer at all. Just sometimes people would treat her differently when they saw Naruto with her. They knew that she was taking care of the demon child, but that never bothered her and she told Naruto that. Naruto-kun, being Hokage is a lot more than that. All the previous Hokages were really strong, and I know you'll be very strong one day. But before them, maybe take a bit of time to really think what you want to become and what your dream is. If it is to become Hokage, I'll support you in every way I can. That would really make the young boy think, but he was also growing smarter as he grew older. He knew one thing for certain, Hokage or not, he will protect Yuhi Kurenai with all he has. That was his reason for asking her to train him when he gets older, though he didn't tell her the reason for it. The day came and gone, as Naruto's 6th birthday arrived. Kurenai spoiled him as much as she could, even if it was just to stay in their home. She told him that on these days the entire village becomes really rough and it was better for them to stay indoors. But Naruto would just nod, smiling as he told her that he didn't mind, as long as he got to spend his birthday with her. That would really get the 13-year-old girl emotional, but in a happy way. She loved Naruto more than she could say, as they became really close to one another. They would always share secrets and tell each other what they thought of if it was something they wanted to tell one another. But they would just do so in order to talk and always feel comfortable with each other. Kurenai even baked him a cake, to which he loved even more since she made it for him. He always thought that he was a burden on her, as he remembered his life before he began to live with her. But she would just tell him that he should stop thinking like that, and that she loved him and loved taking care of him. For she didn't even want to think of what would have happened if Amaterasu hadn't brought him back from Shur no Mori, Forest of Death. Kurenai never really thought of the goddess much, for she didn't think they would ever see her again, so she just continued like normal, but with Naruto by her side. A thought then appeared in Kurenai's head, one that she didn't know what she wanted to know that. She looked over to Naruto, who was currently busy eating a slice of the cake she had made him. She then walked over to where he sat and sat next to him. Naruto-kun, I want to ask you something, she began, getting the attention of the cake-eating boy. Sure, Kurenai-chan, what is it? He asked after swallowing his treat, for Kurenai had taught him never to speak with your mouth full, and that she hated it. This might sound weird, and I truly don't know why I'm asking you this, but do you hate anything or anyone? Like the people that hurt you before or the ones that hurt you still now? She asked, looking him straight in the eye. Naruto didn't know why she wanted to know that, but saw that she was serious, so he then took it seriously and thought about it for a few minutes. Kurenai waited for him to answer, not wanting to rush him. She then continued, seeing he still hasn't spoken yet. Okay, how about this? If someone would, let's say, hurt me, how would you feel? That really got the attention of the young boys, as he then frowned of the idea of someone hurting Kurenai. Naruto then looked into her eyes before he answered her with a serious tone. I really wouldn't like it if someone hurt you, Kurenai-chan. The thought of that really makes me feel sad. But to answer your question, no. I don't think I'll hate them. Yet I'll be very angry if someone tries is. But that's why I'm gonna become super strong. So that no one ever hurts you, he told her, the first part with a serious face, and the last part with a smile. It also made Kurenai happy, but the last part made her blush, though neither of them knew it. Well then that's good. Hating is really bad. thought I am a bit surprised not just by how smart you've become, but also because you won't hate. Why is that? She asked him, for she really wanted to know how someone's about to not hate another person, even if they did something horrible to Naruto or someone close to him. It still is a really dangerous and bad world, and no one ever knew what could happen at any moment. Naruto, though, had a simple answer for that. Why do we need to hate someone for what he did? It might hurt someone I know, but I will become strong so that people will stop fighting. I know I've been treated badly, but I got you Kurenai-chan, he began, only to continue with a smile on his face. And that's all I'll ever need. I won't hate someone if they took you from me, though I'll be very sad and hurt. I don't see why people should hate each other. That's a bad thing. Hate is a really bad thing, because it hurts your heart more. That shocked not only Kurenai, who didn't even know how a 6-year-old was able to give such an answer, but it also shocked the certain fox who was also listening in on the conversation. But unknown to all of them, someone else was listening to their conversation as well. Said being was currently high above Kanehagakure once again, just like she's been each year on Naruto's birthday, and no one ever saw her or even sensed her. I knew I made the right choice, came an angelic voice from high above in the sky, looking down onto the building that housed Naruto and Kurenai. I will be seeing you very soon, Uzumaki Naruto, Amaterasu said before she disappeared, going back to her palace. Back inside the seal that still went unnoticed by Naruto, even if said seal has been on his stomach since he was born. A huge orange fox with 9-tailed just smirked, for he knew what was about to come in the near future. Kurenai just smiled at the boy a few minutes later, only to hug him afterwards before she began to speak. I'll never leave you, you know what she told him, pulling back from the hug, only to kiss him on the forehead. Also, happy birthday Naruto-kun. Angels and demon. Monster. Demon. These were the whispers that were directed towards a young boy in a normal red shirt with black pants and black shinobi sandals. It's only been a week since Naruto's birthday, yet he still got the same treatment as before. He thought that maybe once he becomes older that the civilians of Kanehagakure would be a bit nicer to him. But to no avail. They still treated him poorly, sometimes even worse, especially on his birthday, and he still didn't know why they treated him like they did. He could never figure out why they would call him a demon or a monster, or any of the other things that they called him. Kurenai had stated early on that he should just ignore them, for they are really stupid people, though she didn't say any of that in front of anyone else, for fear that they would only treat her best friend even worse. Both Naruto and Kurenai were currently walking in the streets of Konoha, heading towards a shop that Kurenai told Naruto about. That is also the reason why everyone that they walked past spoke horribly of the young red-haired boy. Don't worry, Naruto-kun. We'll be there soon, Kurenai told her red-haired friend who was walking right beside her while looking at the ground. Why did we have to wake up so early, though? The young red-haired asked, for he was still tired and wanted to continue sleeping. This only made the older girl giggle, which Naruto smiled at when he heard it. It had become one of his favorite things to hear, for he liked it when his older friend showed some signs of happiness. Well, I thought that we would make it to the store before anyone else woke up, she replied while looking down at Naruto. For him being younger also meant that he was a few inches shorter than the older girl. Naruto suddenly knew what she meant and why they woke up so early to go to a shinobi shop. She didn't want me to hear these people say such horrible things about me, he thought to himself, which only made him tear up at the thought. Kurenai saw this and stopped them both, seeing that there was no one around them at the moment, as she then pulled the young boy into a hug. What's wrong, Naruto-kun? She asked, showing a bit of concern to her younger friend. Naruto, who returned the hug, looked up at her while a few tears rolled down his cheeks. Why are you so nice to me, Kurenai-chan? I mean, I know why. You've told me before. But why? Everyone else seems to hate me, and I remember everything before you took me in to live with you. I just don't get it. I'm supposed to be a dadash, was the only words he got out of his mouth before Kurenai slapped him across his face. It wasn't a hard slap, but it still stung for the young boy. Shocked by the slap, he looked up and into the eyes of the girl that still held him close to her. What he saw shocked him. Kurenai, out of a bit of anger and sadness, slapped Naruto across the face to shut him up. She hated when he belittled himself and called himself the things the villagers called him. For her, it was already enough that they called him that. But for Naruto to want to call himself that made her angry, and she couldn't let that continue. "Never again!" she half screamed, but couldn't say it any louder for the tears rolling down her cheeks stopped that from happening. "Don't you dare ever say that again, Naruto." Kurenai continued while sobbing, trying to get the tears under control, but only found that to be a bit difficult at the moment. "I don't want to hear you say that ever again. You are not what they say you are, so don't even think of saying that ever again," she finished as she wiped her eyes with her sleeves, trying to hide the fact that she just openly cried. Naruto, on his part, felt even worse than before. He disliked it when the people called him the things they did, but he couldn't stand it when Kurenai cried, especially when he was the one that made her cry. It made him feel like his heart was crying with her, trying to absorb her pain so that she didn't have to be sad. Nodding quickly and then hugging her as tightly as his little arms could, Naruto spoke. I'm so sorry, Kurenai-chan. I didn't mean to say that. I just don't want to be a burden to you anymore," he said, trying to hold back his newfound tears that almost spilled out. Kurenai returned the hug just as tightly, but not using all her strength in said hug. "You'll never be a burden to me, Naruto-kun. If it wasn't for you, I'd be very lonely. You know you're my best friend, right? We will always be together," the older girl said, almost sounding like she just made a promise of a lifetime. Naruto just nodded at that, now with a huge smile on his face as he once again looked Kurenai in the eyes. "Promise?" the red-haired boy asked, holding out his pinky. This only made this older girl giggle once again, for she liked it when Naruto acted so innocent right after they even cried. She held out her own pinky, locking it with the smaller one that belonged to her best friend. "Promise." Afterwards, they both began to walk towards the designated shinobi shop once more, but because they stood still for a few minutes, the streets were now becoming more crowded. The 13-year-old red-eyed girl had recently become a chunin, which was the reason for the two of them waking up so early and heading towards the only shinobi shop they knew that allowed Naruto in. It angered her that they would throw Naruto out of the shops when he walked in, and she didn't want to shop at any place that didn't want to allow her best friend to even enter. But sometimes she had to go alone, for they did need food and at least no one could overcharge her. Kurenai, being a newly appointed chunin, started receiving more money on her own every time she and her team finished a mission. She really appreciated the help from the old pervert, which she still didn't like, but didn't voice it much anymore. Jiraiya had only visited Naruto a few times in the past few years, only checking up on how his godson was doing. When he found out that he was okay, the white-haired man would just go back to his normal activities in Konoha, which normally got him a beating from Kurenai, for she really hated perverts. Naruto liked the old man, but didn't feel too sad that he didn't see him much, for he saw a lot of Kurenai when she was at home and not on a mission, and even Anko visited them a lot. So the younger boy couldn't really say that he was lonely, for he had his big sister and his best friend. Minutes later, Kurenai and Naruto arrived at their destination, which was a huge building. Inside said building was a lot of shinobi equipment varying from shuriken to kunai, from a huge selection of swords and sealing scrolls and just about anything else a shinobi would need. They also had a lot of different clothing that they displayed, but also told their customers that they did custom work for anyone who wanted their own unique style and patterns. This reason being for the clan types mostly, for they knew that each clan would always want their own symbol on their clothes to show off to which clan they belonged to. Kurenai had her normal chunin clothing on, which were made out of a simple sleeveless red outfit with her chunin jacket above. When they entered the store, they were greeted with the sight of a few other shinobi that seemed to have the same idea of going to shop early, though they had way different reasons than the young red-eyed girl. The owner of the store saw the newly arrived pair and smiled, for the old man liked the two of them quite a bit. Said older man already had some gray hair showing at the sides of his hair, with the rest of them just a light shade of black. He walked towards the two, seeing that they were looking around. "Morning, Kurenai, Naruto. How may I help you this fine morning?" The old man asked, looking down at the young children in front of him. "Good morning, sir," Kurenai replied. "I just want to know if you still have some shuriken and kunai left," she asked, seeing as though there were already a few shinobi that seemed to want the same pair of equipment. The older man just laughed slightly before nodding. Then he led them towards the side where he kept his weapons. He then went to show them where they kunai and shuriken were, leaving them on their own afterwards when Kurenai thanked him. Naruto was mesmerized by everything he saw. He knew that Kurenai was a really good ninja, and he already asked her if someday he could maybe teach him a few things. He just liked the idea of being able to protect her and everyone else he cared about, but mostly Kurenai and Anko. What really caught his attention while Kurenai was picking out a few weapons and scrolls that she needed was a pair of swords. He didn't know why, but he just found them cool and they seemed really sharp. When Kurenai was done with picking the things she needed, she turned around to face her red-haired friend. "See anything you like, Naruto-kun?" she asked, seeing that he was looking at the swords in particular. "Do you fancy kenjutsu?" This got Naruto's attention, for he didn't know the fancy words the shinobis used. "Ken, what now?" he asked, feeling a little dumb that he didn't know much about the arts of shinobi, though he was only 6, so that could count as a good defense. Kurenai just giggled when he said that, pointing to the swords afterwards. "Kenjutsu, meaning sword fighting. Do you like it?" she asked, a bit more seriously. Naruto just nodded before he spoke. "They seem cool and really sharp. Do you know how to use them?" The red-eyed girl just shook her head before she spoke herself. "No, I don't. I never really learned how to use swords. I myself am just a genjutsu user." But before Naruto could say anything, she continued. "Genjutsu are illusions. I'm very good at that, so I train very hard in it. Maybe if you get an interest in it when you're older, I'll teach you a bit about it." That got a huge smile from the red-haired boy, who just nodded as the two of them made their way towards the counter to pay for the things. Kurenai placed her items on the counter, then placed the right amount of Ryo next to it. Afterwards, they made their way back towards their home. Kurenai's home. When they arrived, Kurenai was a little shocked to see they had company, though Naruto smiled when he saw the person in front of their door. "Morning, Ji-san," came the voice of Naruto, who decided to speak first. Kurenai herself bowed slightly before she also greeted the old man. "Morning, Hokage-sama. To what do I owe this visit?" "Morning, Naruto-kun," Kurenai-chan Hiruzen replied while looking at the young children. "I just came to see how my favorite red couple is doing," he said, directing the red towards Kurenai's eyes and Naruto's hair. That got a small blush from the red eyes girl, while Naruto just smiled at the two. "We are doing fine, Hokage-sama. Thank you," Kurenai said, her blush fading away as she then went to open her door, allowing the Sandaime to enter first. They all stepped in, with Naruto being lasted as he then closed the door behind him. Afterwards, they made their way towards the living room, sitting down on the couches. The Sandaime took a minute to look at the younger two, smiling when he saw how close they have gotten when Naruto just went to sit next to Kurenai. "Do you want any tea, perhaps, Sandaime-sama?" Kurenai asked, feeling a little weird that the old man wasn't saying anything. This got his attention as he then looked at the young girl. "No, thank you. I actually came by to see if you're still okay with the mission you've accepted with your team. I know it will be your first B-ranked mission, but I have faith in your ability with Genjutsu to help your team," the Sandaime began, continuing a few seconds afterwards. "I also wanted to see Naruto before then, for I don't know how long your mission will be, considering that B-ranked missions take a few weeks to finish, and that's only if they are short and if you're lucky." Naruto's eyes grew big at this, for he didn't know what they were talking about. He knew about the missions that Kurenai took, and she did explain to him about the different types of missions, them being ranked D to A, then S. In the past, Kurenai would leave for a few days, a week at most for a normal C-ranked mission. Now he heard that she was to take a B-ranked mission. That really got him worried. Kurenai on her part also got a bit worried, for she wanted to tell Naruto about her mission later the day. Hiruzen saw this, for neither of them spoke and it's been a few minutes already. I take it you haven't told Naruto about any of this yet? He asked, feeling a little guilty for just speaking about missions so out in the open with there was a 6-year-old sitting with them. He for once thought that they had already spoken about it, for Hiruzen had given her and her team the mission only yesterday. Kurenai just shook her head before she finally broke the silence. No, Sandaime-sama, I haven't told Naruto-kun about it yet. But I guess now is as good as time as any, she finished, looking at the younger boy beside her who was just looking at the ground. Seeing her sad he looked, Kurenai quickly places her arm around him, hugging him before she decided to speak to him. Don't worry, Naruto-kun. You know I won't ever leave you. It's just a mission, and I have to take them if I want to become a jonin one day. I'll tell you a bit more about it later, okay? Naruto quickly recovered from his worrying emotions, nodding when Kurenai finished speaking. Hiruzen just smiled when he saw the two of them, and how much they cared for one another. He saw the look of worry in Naruto's eyes, and that got the old man to smile even more. He truly cares a lot about her. A few minutes later, the Sandaime decided to speak once more. I'm going to guess that everything is settled then and that you're ready for the mission? This snapped the young girl out of his haze, looking at the Hokage before nodding. Yes, sorry about that, Hokage-sama. I didn't mean to zone out like that. But yes, I am ready for the mission and I won't disappoint you, the red-eyed girl spoke, bowing her head slightly to the old man. Good. Then I wish for you and your team to have a safe trip, and to come back safely. Hiruzen spoke with care in his voice, as he looked at the two sitting before him. I already spoke with your teammates, and I do believe that they are probably training now, most likely for tomorrow. Though I'm going to guess that you want to spend time with Naruto-kun before you leave. Kurenai just nodded after the Hokage finished speaking, still with her arm around Naruto, which didn't go unnoticed by the old Kage. The three of them continued to speak to each other for a little bit after they finished with their discussion about the mission Kurenai was about to go on. Only speaking about random things with Naruto started with a smile. After that, the Hokage bid them goodbye and went back to the Kage Tower, cursing to himself when he thought about the work that awaited him for the day. When Naruto and Kurenai were alone, things seemed to stay silent only for a few minutes. Naruto-kun, I'm going to be okay. I always am. I wanted to tell you a bit later today, but I didn't know the Hokage would come to check up on me beforehand. Guess he is also a bit worried, seeing as though I'm just 13 along with my teammates. Kurenai spoke first, looking at the younger red-haired boy. That's okay, Kurenai-chan. I'm just worried. I know you'll be okay, but I just don't know how long you'll be away for this time. You told me the higher the ranking of a mission, the more dangerous they are, and they could also take a lot longer. He spoke with a caring voice which was directed towards the older girl. Kurenai smiled at the way his voice sounded, clearly showing that she caught the hidden concern and care behind his, as she hugged him slightly before she spoke afterwards. That's true, Naruto-kun. This mission, which we are going on starting tomorrow, will take mostly likely a month or more. And before you say anything, let me explain, the red-eyed girl began, looking him straight in the eyes as she continued. Firstly, what I'm about to tell you is to be kept between us. Okay? She asked first, then continued when he nodded to show that he understood. A few days ago, we got asked to help another shinobi village. If it's a small one, we would help right away if we could. But if it's one of the great elemental villages, we tend to stay away. This time, though, the Hokage decided to help in any way he could. Kurenai began yet again, taking a few quick breathers before she continued. While it isn't really the main village that asked for our help, the Hokage did agree to help in a war that is going on at the moment that resides in the Mist Country. They are in a civil war, once of bloodlines fighting against non-bloodlines. We are going to help with this, seeing we could potentially get an ally out of it. Plus, the Hokage doesn't like wars, for wars causes suffering and a lot of death. So that is where not only my team's mission comes in, but a few others also. We are the second Chunin team to be sent to help out. The reason it will take so long is because the Mist Country is quite far. But we are only to help with the sidelines and take care of some of the current Mizuki's forces. So that's all we can do at the moment, for the war also just started a few months back. You will hear about it more as the Hokage may or may not let a few more people in on it, Kurenai finished, out of breath with everything that she spoke about. Naruto took a few minutes to process about what he was just been told, then looking up at her with a smile. "You're going to help them take down the bad ones?" he asked, then quickly giving her a tight hug. "Please stay safe, Kurenai-chan. I know you'll help them a lot, but war seems to be really bad and I don't even want to think of something happening to you or Anko Nizan. I don't know your other member or sensei, but I know you'll do good," Naruto said with a smile. Kurenai returned the hug when he hugged her, feeling a bit weird with all the hugs the two of them have been giving each other recently, but it was a good weird that she liked. "I won't be gone that long. How about when I come back we can start with your training to become a shinobi? Though it won't be anything big, just something small to start off with," Kurenai said, standing up from the couch they sat on. Naruto nodded before the older girl continued. "Good. I'll leave a few books for you to read on before that, for you need to learn and grow your brain too if you want to become a strong ninja like me," Kurenai teased a little, sticking her tongue out to him. That only got the young red-haired boy to giggle, jumping up from the couch. "Okay, you're on, Kurenai-chan. One day I'll become even stronger than all the Hokages put together." He spoke with a lot of determination, something with not a lot of 6 years old really do. "Oh, you want to become Hokage yourself then?" she asked in a teasing voice, going in to tickle her best friend. While trying to get away and also laughing when Kurenai caught him and tickled him, Naruto spoke with as much voice as he could between laughs. "And no, I don't want to become Hokage." This got the red-eyed girl to stop tickling her best friend, sitting back on the ground to look at him. "Oh, why the change of heart? I thought you said when you were a bit younger that you wanted to be the Hokage someday," Kurenai asked. "Well, I did think about it like you said, but then I relished that if I become the Hokage, I won't be able to spend so much time with you," Naruto said with a smile, only to crawl towards his best friend while she didn't pay attention. When he got close to her, he tried to catch her off guard to try and tickle her back, but failed when Kurenai caught him instead. "That's really sweet, Naruto-kun. But just remember, I'm the tickle master in this house." "No!" Naruto cried out while laughing as Kurenai once again began to tickle her red-haired friend. The two of them spend the rest of the day together, playing around in the house and talking as much as they could before Kurenai had to go on her mission. The rest of her team, which consisted out of Anko, a Jonin sensei she didn't like much, mostly because of his perverted attitude, and another unknown Chunin, were currently training together once more. They knew about Kurenai spending the day before they went on a mission with Naruto, and none of them really minded. Least of all Anko, who also visited her little brother each times before they went onto a mission. The day passed quickly. As nighttime fell and Konoha grew silent, everyone heading off to their own houses. Though the Hokage was still in his office, sitting in his chair while thinking about the day he got asked to help in a civil war. His councilmen were greatly against it, especially his old teammates, who told him that they shouldn't take part in another country's affairs. But that got the Hokage mad, and he told them exactly to whom they were speaking to. It quickly got them to shut their mouths, for when he threatened to take their power they had in the village away, they seemed to fail to say anything else. Sarutobi Hiruzen reminded them that all the power goes to the Hokage, and no one in the entire village was above him. So they had to respect his decision, or if they even tried to voice against him again, they would face execution for treason. A Kage doesn't answer to anyone in his own village, and a council is only there to help guide the village, not to make the decisions for the Kage. So the Sandaime just sat in his seat, feeling his old age getting to him as he remembered the day the, hopefully future Mizukage, came to speak with him and ask for his aid. Flashback, 2 days ago. A beautiful woman, who looked like to be in her early 20s, walked through the gates of Konohagakure. Said woman had long auburn hair that was styled in a herringbone pattern that reached just below her backside, wearing a dark blue dress that fell just below her knees. To her left walked an older man with blue hair which was styled in a moused-up manner. His right eye was covered by an eye patch, unlike his left blue eye. He also wore a standard striped, gray suit, with a green haori above them. While on the right side walked another man, who had a face mask on and looked to be of the same age as the other man, with normal black hair and what seemed to be Jonin clothes of the village hidden in the mist. When the Konoha guards saw them, they immediately stopped them as they recognized the clothes the Jonin wore. "Stop!" one of the guards yelled, causing the trio to stop in their tracks. "State your business to Kanehegakure or be prepared to be taken in for questioning by force," he same guard said, but blushed when she looked at the only woman of the trio. This caught the woman's attention, feeling disgusted by the way the man looked at her, but spoke nonetheless. "We are here to see the Hokage, on something I'd like to discuss with him personally," she spoke in a soft, yet vile tone that told the man she didn't like to be ogled like a piece of meat. It was early in the morning, so they knew the Hokage probably wouldn't be too busy, so the guard that didn't get a chance to speak took the three of them towards the Hokage tower. When they arrived, they were greeted by a beautiful young girl who seemed to be around the same age as the woman that was with the trio, who looked up at them from her paperwork. Said woman was the secretary of the Hokage, so she stepped forward to stop the oncoming people. "Morning. I am going to assume you're not from here," she spoke when she saw the Jonin man that walked with the trio, as she also recognized where the clothes came from. "What can I do for you?" she asked, placing her paperwork down, only to get another clipboard with her which she thought she would need. "We are here to speak with the Hokage, if he is in," the woman once again spoke, signifying to the other members of Konoha that she must be the leader. The Hokage's secretary quickly looked at the clipboard, seeing that the Hokage was well in his office, and didn't have anything to do for the morning so far. She nodded afterwards and led them to his office, dismissing the ANBU that walked along with them. When they knocked on the door, they heard an older voice telling them to enter. The secretary then opened the door, letting the trio inside. But before she left, she gave a quick look towards the Hokage, making the old man gulp as he caught the look. For she knew how perverted the older man truly was, so the look she gave him quickly warned him not to look at the blue-dressed woman in any funny ways. Nodding, she then quickly closed the door before the Hokage turned his attention to the trio standing in front of him now. When he saw the young woman in front of him, his eyes nearly popped out, but he quickly got a hold of himself. He then looked at the other two, noticing the clothes the man with the face mask wore. "Morning," the Hokage began. "What can I do for the mist?" Said trio members bowed slightly, showing their appreciation to the old man for seeing them. But the woman of the group had caught his look, and already figured that he was just like any other man. Lifting her head up, she spoke. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Hokage-sama. I am Terumi Mei, leader of the bloodline rebels of the mist. Though I am not the Mizukage, for we are the ones fighting against him and his rule." The Hokage knew about the civil war in the mist, but didn't know why they would come to him, especially the ones fighting against the current Mizukage. The Sandaime decided to take his turn to speak, looking her in the eyes instead of looking at her breasts. "And what does the leader of a rebel army want in Konoha?" Mei knew this was coming, so she decided to not lie about anything and be straight with the old Kage. "We are here to ask for her. I know we have nothing to give you at the moment, but we greatly need support to take the mist from the Yonde Mizukage. The man is really crazy and has killed a lot of innocent people. We just aim to stop him and for everyone to live fairly. But we have been flighty for 6 months now, and we are not doing that good, to be honest with you," she spoke, looking into the Hokage's eyes. Hiruzen just nodded, thinking before he spoke. "I understand, but we are still currently recovering from the Kyuubi attack that attacked merely 6 years ago. Though I understand your situation, I do not think we can help." Mei decided to sit down this time, sitting in one of the chairs on the opposite side of the Hokage's desk that was reserved for visitors. She then took out a piece of paper, handing it to the Hokage, who took it out of curiosity. His ANBU, which were hidden in the Hokage's office, also looked at the piece of paper that she handed to them, ready to defend their sandaime with their lives. Before the old man could read the paper handed to him, Mei decided to speak once again. I know we don't have much to give at the moment, and I know you're still struggling from your losses. All I ask is if you could maybe send a few of your men to help us, even if it's just to take care of some of the people on the sidelines. In exchange, they will get paid for their missions. If you allow it, she began, taking a deep breath before continuing. I'm calling them missions for it could benefit your soldiers, but we can unfortunately only pay for B-ranked missions at the moment. The other thing we can offer is, if you decided to help us, that we could become allies. My men and I have spoken already, and I know I am young, but I have greatly trusted advisors. Once we defeat the current Mizukage, I will take on the role as the Godame Mizukage, and with that I can promise you to form an alliance with the village of Kanahagakur. That shocked every ANBU in the office, and even shocked the Hokage a little. For they have tried to become allies with another great elemental nation, and one as such as Kirigakure could really help a lot. This made the Hokage look at the paper he received, seeing that everything she just spoke about to be true, or the alliance part at least. For the paper she handed to him held her signature and also a document to be signed by both to sign their truth. It would also make them allies once the current civil war was over. Hiruzen took a few minutes to think, which Mei gave to him. Coming to a decision, the Hokage took a pen and signed the piece of paper, but only after he read through everything very carefully, noting that she had already signed it to show how serious it was. After signing, the Hokage looked up from the paper and looked towards the young woman. I accept the proposition. It would be great to have another elemental nation as an ally, so we will gladly help. I myself have been through 2 wars, so I know what it's like. I just hope you can understand that while I can send a few of my soldiers to help you, that we can only send so many at the moment. Plus I also have to discuss this with my councilmen, which I don't know how they'll take. This surprised the trio, as they thought that older man would have at least taken some time to think and speak with his councilman before signing it. So that raised a question for Mei, which she decided to voice as soon as possible. Why didn't you speak with them before you signed the document, Hokage-sama? Hiruzen just smiled, looking through the window, then back to her after a few minutes. We could really use the help ourselves, for we want to be allied with another great village, and we have tried for so many years now. I made this decision myself, for it is one you'll understand soon enough. A Kage doesn't follow anyone's orders. Kage leads. Sure, I could have spoken to them, but then they would have voiced how badly a decision it would be, and they wouldn't have thought it through. And if they did, they would have only made you agree to harsh terms that only benefit us and not you. That it now how Konoha will be run. We are a proud village, and I am its leader. So the decisions fall onto my shoulder. This speech made all 3 of them look at the old man with wide eyes, feeling truly good that they decided to ask for Konoha for help. The ANBU in the room also felt proud. Proud that they had such an amazing Hokage. Someone who doesn't just want power, and who is someone who cares for others. For what would a village be if the leader went crazy? Afterwards they spoke a little more, deciding on plans and everything else they would do. Hiruzen decided to send a few teams of Chunin first, each with their Jonin leaders to help them. The max at the moment he would be able to send was 10 teams, meaning 30 members of Konoha. He then told her that he would speak to the head of the Uchiha, Fugaku, to see if he could send a few of his clansmen with them, but only those who are strong enough to fight in a civil war. For he knew that neither he nor the head of the Uchiha clan would want any of the Uchiha to fall in the battle and have their eyes taken. So they would most likely only send 3 or 4 Uchiha. The leader, of course, would be Uchiha Itachi. Coming to an agreement, the trio greeted the old man, saying that they wished to turn in for the day. Hiruzen then ordered his secretary to have some ANBU escort them to the best hotel they had, which the trio bowed in appreciation. They decided to stay in Konoha not for too long, for they needed to get back to the fight and to help their people. They would restock on their supplies, then leave for the mist at the latest of 4 days. That evening the Hokage called for the meeting, telling his councilmen about the agreement he made. Of course, everyone was shocked, and some of them were even against it, those only being the village council members and Hiruzen's old teammates. Yet surprisingly, Danzo agreed, saying that it's about time they get an ally as great as Kirigakure. When the meeting was done, everyone left, safe for the Hokage and Fugaku. They spoke about the deal the Hokage made, which the head of the Uchiha clan said to be a good one. They could use the allies. Then the Hokage asked if they could send a few of the Uchiha, which surprised the younger man, for he didn't think he would ask him to send some of his own clansmen with them, in fear of someone else gaining the Sharingan. But then Hiruzen said that he would only send Hatake Kakashi with them to help keep that from happening, but also Itachi, Fugaku's oldest son. He didn't want to, but came to a decision to let the Hokage send some of his strongest clansmen with the groups to help in the civil war. He also wanted his oldest son to have some experience in a true war, not just to do some silly missions. For he wanted the Uchiha clan to be well known again, like they used to be back when Madara was still alive. Afterwards, the Hokage called the teams he would send, already sending the first team the day after. He would then send another team as soon as possible, but also told them to meet at the border of the Fire Country where they had a hideout. Present day. The Hokage stood from his seat, he himself also going back to his home, calling it a day and leaving the ANBU to guard the village while he sleeps. That night Naruto and Kurenai slept in the same bed once more, and not like the other days with Naruto in his own room, which Kurenai got him a little while back. For they were talking while laying on her bed, falling asleep soon afterwards as sleep took them both. But while everyone slept, one being softly stopped to itself before it fell asleep. Soon, child, very soon. The following day was a little hard for the 6-year red-haired boy, for he had to say goodbye to his best friend and his older sister when they reached the gates of Konoha. But Naruto never really liked to say goodbye, so he just hugged them both, one at a time. See you soon, Kurenai-chan. Anko Onizen. Naruto spoke to them both, receiving a kiss on the cheek from Anko, which made Kurenai a little mad for some reason. But she got rid of that feeling fast. See you soon, Otuto, little brother, Anko replied, turning back towards her other teammate and their sensei. Kurenai, not one who wanted to be outdone for some reason by Anko, especially when it came to Naruto, quickly gave him a kiss on the cheek as well. I'll be back soon, Naruto-kun. Take good care of yourself. Also, remember our deal, Kurenai told him, and soon after that she also turned to her teammates. Ready to leave, they all took to the threes, surprising Naruto when he saw what strong ninjas could do. I will become a great shinobi myself one day, he said, but not loud enough for anyone else to hear, for it was already daytime, and that only meant that more people would fill the streets soon. And he for one didn't want to deal with anyone that could call him names. So Naruto quickly took off and ran home. On his way running, Naruto bumped into someone as he only looked at the ground, not wanting anyone to know it was him. Though he knew it was impossible, for no one else had hair like his. Some people's hair look ugly red, but was only a true ugly brown and not even close to anything but red. So they all knew they won, an only person in the entire village with red hair that almost looked like blood red, with a tint of black shade. Naruto quickly looked up, wanting to see who he ran into, but before he caught the person's face, he quickly bowed and back away as fast as possible. I'm sorry, I didn't see where I was going. Please forgive me, he said, still with his head bowed. But before the tall blue-dressed woman say anything to the young child that ran into her, a random civilian spoke up first, seeing as the streets were now full of people. Kick the demon's ass for running into your. Make the monster suffer. This surprised May, for she knew about suffering for she has seen it a few times. Yet all those times it was either older shinobi that suffered, or civilians that suffered because of something others did. And they too were older. To see a village such as Konoha's villagers treat one of their own like this shocked her to her core. Even her two companions were shocked at this. She wanted to see the person who said such horrid things about a child so young, but Naruto wanted to run away as he already tried to fight back the tears that were fighting to come out. As soon as Mei turned around, another villager took the opportunity to pick up a big rock and threw it as hard as he could, with the rock hitting Naruto square against the back of the head. Another one soon follower after, hitting him against the jaw. This act infuriated all three of the trio, but mostly Mei. She wanted to stop them, but knew if she did something that she could lose her treaty with Konoha. But that broke her out of her thought as Naruto tried to run away, only to be grabbed by another civilian that held a knife against his throat. The villagers kept an eye on him and Kurenai as often as they could, meaning they were waiting for the older girl to leave on a mission so that they could grab Naruto and torture him. They all still felt so much hatred towards him, especially since his birthday wasn't even that long ago, and they wanted to hurt him again. But before the civilian with the knife could do anything, Mei quickly ordered Ao to get the child from him. Doing it as quickly as possible, Ao moved in and grabbed the red-haired boy, which surprised the civilians greatly. Before any one of them could do anything else, Hiruzen himself appeared with a few Anbu at his side. Anbu, arrest those who threw rocks as Naruto, and the one who held the knife against him as well. The Hokage spoke with a lot of venom in his voice, which was directed towards the people who tried to harm Naruto as soon as he was alone. Doing what they were told, the Anbu, who also grew angry at the way the people treated Naruto, quickly took the ones that threw the rocks and the one that held the knife to prison, shocking the trio once again. By now Naruto had calmed down greatly, but still felt sad for how they treated him. He also felt sore from the places the blood leaked, though that started to heal as soon as the wounds were made. Mei, who surprisingly still held Naruto near her, walked up to the Hokage who she didn't know would appear, or even how he knew about what just happened. But before she could say anything, Hiruzen quickly ordered a Anbu medic to heal Naruto, to which the older female Anbu did. He then turned his attention towards the trio, then looked at Naruto, who was still close to Mei with her hand on his back after Ao had taken him from the civilian and brought him to her. I am sorry you had to see that. There's a lot going on in this villages, and even more has to do with the attack that took place 6 years ago. I would tell you more if I could. Hiruzen stopped, gesturing towards Naruto, who was now standing by himself after the Anbu healed him. But to her surprise, she didn't have to heal much, for his wounds were clothing by themselves. I'll mention that to the Hokage later. Mei just nodded, knowing it must be something bad. But she was a bit intrigued, though still mad. She looked at the young child, kneeling before him and lifting his chin so that she could look him in the eyes. What she saw was one of the most beautiful pair of eyes, which had a little back on the outside of his pupils, but the rest were pure white. There was also a tint of red in them, but not enough for anyone to see. She didn't know why, but Mei were captured by his eyes as she smiled to him. Don't worry about them, okay? I'm not going to hurt you. I'm Mei, by the way, Terumi Mei. Might I ask what your name is? She asked in the most care voice Ao has ever heard her speak to anyone before. Naruto too looked into her eyes and found her green eyes to be really pretty, though to him no one could even compare to his best friend. I'm Uzumaki Naruto. Nice to meet you, he replied with a genuine smile, making Mei smile herself. It's nice to meet you too, Naruto, she spoke, then looked at the Hokage, who just smiled at them, nodding slightly as he and the Anbu turned to leave, heading back towards his office. He knew he could keep an eye on them using his crystal ball, but he also left an Anbu behind on the roof to look after Naruto, in case something like that were to happen again. Deciding quickly, Mei looked at Naruto again before smiling. I haven't had anything to eat yet today. Do you maybe want to join me? She said, standing up onto her feet once more. Naruto was shocked at this, but smiled and nodded. You can never say no to food. The rest of the day went by slowly for the three of them, as they all spend the day with Naruto. Ao tried to talk big and wanted to say stuff about the old days, but was quickly silenced when Mei would turn to him and tell him, Ao, shut up or I'll kill you. With a weird smile take made Naruto laugh. They spend the rest of the day together, with the trio quickly restocking their things. Mei knew they could have restocked a lot faster and could have been on their way back to the mist already, but she just wanted to spend one day worry-free, and to do that with a 6-year-old red-haired boy, made her wish come true. Terumi May became someone Naruto could truly call a friend, even if she was way older than him. She was really nice to him, and didn't say anything bad about him or didn't make him pay for anything they went to do. The day passed, and they went their separate ways. But not before May got onto her knees again and did something Naruto never expected from someone he just met that same day. May hugged him, and the hug lasted a few seconds at least. "I hope I see you again soon, Naruto-kun. Take good care of yourself, okay?" she told him, standing up straight again. Ao wanted to say something, but decided against it. "I will, Mei-chan. See you soon," he waved at her, heading back towards his apartment that he shared with his best friend. Ao and the other Jonin were surprised at the suffix that Naruto just used with May. For the last time someone even tried that, she nearly melted the poor guy. But to their utter surprise, May just watched him leave, making sure no one did anything like they did this morning again. She also smiled when he called her that, turning around and heading back towards the hotel they stayed at. Though she still had a few questions, she decided to keep them for another day. She also hoped that she would see Naruto soon again, though she knew that the civil war had to end first before that could happen. When Naruto returned home, he just smiled. Entering the home, he spoke to himself when he knew he was alone. "I made another friend, Kurenai-chan." He then went to take a bath, only to take a few books that Kurenai left him to his bed to read. He wanted to start with everything that a beginner shinobi had to start with, so he opened the books and began to read through the first one, which held the title of The Basics of Chakra. It wasn't even half an hour later before Naruto rubbed his eyes, feeling a bit weird all of a sudden. When he opened his eyes, he gasped. Where am I?" Naruto began to panic, but quickly calmed down when he remembered the saying Kurenai told him. "Never let emotions control you. A shinobi has to know how and when to control his emotions." Though he didn't like it much, he understood it. Seeing a path in front of him, he decided to follow it. It felt like forever to Naruto until he reached a door. He didn't know where he was or how he got here, but it looked like a sewer to him. He reached for the door, opening it as carefully as he could. When the door was fully opened, he stepped into what seemed to be a massive dark room, but with water on the floor that reached just above his ankles. He then quickly turned around, only to see the door he came through to be gone. Not knowing what else to do, Naruto walked. It felt like hours for him yet again, but that stopped till he reached what looked like to be massive red pipes to form some sort of cage. Though the cage looked too big to before a human, Naruto did what he thought he should and stepped through the bars to the other side. But when he got to the other side, his eyes grew big. Right in front of him laid a beyond massive-looking fox, with red-orange fur. Around his eyes were black fur, and said eyes had red irises with black pupils. Though his most noticeable and probably the weirdest thing Naruto ever saw was the face that behind him seemed to be his tails, and he had 9 of them all swaying around. Said fox was currently resting his head on his paws, and it seemed to be waiting, though Naruto knew not what for. Seeing that fox didn't say anything, or probably couldn't, Naruto smiled as brightly as he could and reached out with his hand, almost like he wanted to shake a hand. Even Naruto didn't truly know why he did that, but he wanted to make a good first impression on something so big. "Hi, I'm Naruto. Nice to meet you." Naruto himself just wanted to say hi to the fox, because said fox didn't do anything to him for starters. Normally anyone that wasn't Kurenai, Anko, and even now May would have hurt him in some way. When the fox didn't, he just smiled and greeted him first. But the QB just looked at his container, truly confused at how a human would walk up to something as big as him, only to reach out with his hand and trying to greet him. The QB tried to smile, but couldn't, seeing as though his fox face couldn't actually allow that without showing too much teeth. Well, that's a first. A human greeting me. But not only that, walking through those bars like it nothing. "Aren't you scared of me?" the QB asked, looking into the eyes of the red-haired boy standing in front of him. Naruto didn't know why he should be afraid of him, so he decided to say that to him. "Why must I be afraid of you?" This surprised the QB once more, but he just continued to lay with his head on his paws as he spoke in his very deep voice once more. "Because of who I am, of what I am." Naruto cocked his head a little, thinking to himself before he finally caught it. The people of the village always talked about it, especially during his birthday. Even the Hokage mentioned it once or twice if he could remember correctly. "You're the Kyuubi?" Naruto asked, not truly certain about it. "That I am. Are you afraid of me now?" the Kyuubi asked, his voice sounding a bit different than before, almost like it had a very small amount of worry behind it. Naruto just smiled and shook his head. "No, I don't have a reason to be afraid of you. Plus you haven't attacked to try to kill me so far." This only made the Kyuubi laugh slightly, getting up from where he laid, but only slightly. "I am the reason you're being treated like that, kid." This surprised Naruto, for he didn't know what that meant. "What do you mean?" he asked, trying to look into his massive eyes. "I mean that this is inside you. Call it your mind if you will. I am sealed inside you. I cannot die, so your yondaime sealed me inside you," the huge fox said, looking down at the small human in front of him. Taken aback, Naruto just stood there. He didn't know what to think or what to do. "So this is why they all hate me and why they call me everything they do. But that doesn't make any sense. If the Kyuubi is sealed inside me, why call me that? I mean, from what Kurenai-chan told me, when you seal something in those scrolls, the uses, it doesn't become the thing the sealed from what I saw also." This made Naruto laugh all of a sudden, which caught the Kyuubi off guard once again. "Wow, so that is why they hate me? Oh well, I don't care. I got Kurenai-chan and my Wani-san. They don't hate me. But, do you hate me?" Naruto decided to ask, voicing the question that finally came to his mind. Too shocked to even think of it anymore, the Kyuubi just shook his head before he tried to smile, showing a bit of teeth to Naruto, who in return just laughed a little. "At first I did, but when I saw how they treated you, and especially after that night, I changed my opinion about you, kid. So no, I don't hate you. I hate your village for what they did to you, and your Hokage to be too weak to man up and do something about it. I guess you have Amaterasu-sama to thank for that." Now it was Naruto's turn to be confused. Firstly, the Kyuubi knew about that night where he almost died. Then again, he has been sealed inside me since I was born. That is, when the yondaime died, he thought, thinking of the Kyuubi as a he because of how his voice sounded. Secondly, the Kyuubi didn't hate him and called him Kit. Then he said something about something named Amaterasu. Where have I heard that name before? He couldn't really think about it, so he just decided to ask the Kyuubi the questions he wanted to have answers to at least. "Kyuubi, what is your real name if you don't mind me asking?" "I mean, that isn't your real name, is it?" Naruto asked the first thing he could think of, which surprised the Kyuubi a lot. The first thing he asks for is my name, the Kyuubi thought, though he didn't know if he should tell it to him so soon. "Why do you want to know that? Also yes, Kyuubi isn't my name. It's what I am. I am the Kyuubi no Yoko, a Biju," he told Naruto, resting his tails from all the swaying as he just laid them down on the ground. "Well, that's what I thought. So I just want to know what your name is, seeing as you called me Kit. That's better than calling me human, but you could call me Naruto if you want. So I thought you'd like it at least to be called by your name, seeing as you're sealed inside me, and I'm pretty sure neither of us had any say in that." Naruto chuckled slightly, feeling a bit nervous. Today seemed to be the day for being surprised, it seemed, and that was for a lot of people, not only the Kyuubi no Yoko. Taking a second to think, he decided to speak. "First, don't use my name other than to those you trust, meaning only that female human you stay with and that other female woman you call sister. No one else. Got it?" the Kyuubi told him, wanting to make it clear to not use his name openly. Mostly because the other humans didn't deserve to even know his name, not even the Hokage currently. Naruto nodded, smiling as he could finally get some answers perhaps and also have something to talk to while Kurenai was on a mission. "Kurama, that's my name," the now named fox told Naruto, who smiled even wider. "Wow, that's a cool name. It's nice to meet you, Kurama," Naruto said, walking towards the Kyuubi and playing his hand on the huge fox's paw, who looked surprised at the young boy beneath him. Kurama just smirked slightly, or what looked like a smirk to Naruto anyway. "Nice to meet you too, Naruto. I'd talk to you more if I could, but it seems like your body is getting tired, so best to return to it and sleep. We can talk tomorrow again, Kurama told Naruto, laying his head on his paws again and closing his eyes. Firstly, how do I get out of here? Secondly, how do I get back here when I want to come back? Naruto asked, and the Kyuubi just opened his right eye slight and looked at Naruto. All you have to do is think about either being here or not wanting to be here. It's your mind, the red-orange fox replied, closing his eyes once more and going to sleep. Naruto on his part did what the fox said, and thought about not being there anymore. Surprisingly, it worked and he was back in his body again with the books that Kurenai got him still on his bed. He then took them off of his bed and placed them on the ground next to his bed. Then he slowly drifted off to sleep himself, but not before he spoke one last time for the day. Good night, Kurenai-chan, Anko Onizan. Kurenai and her team also decided to rest for the night, as they waited with the other team at the border of the fire country. They had made tent for themselves, with Kurenai and Anko sharing a tent, and their other teammate and sensei on their own with what they didn't really care. But before either of them fell asleep, they both said the same thing at the same time, though one using his name with the suffix after it, and the other referring to Naruto as her younger brother, both wishing him a good night. Training begins. The following morning Naruto woke a bit later than usual. He was used to Kurenai waking him up at times or even when she started doing things in the house. Even that would wake him up, for he has grown to become a light sleeping. Reason for that is his past, and he thought that if someone was to ever break into the home he shared with Kurenai, that he would be prepared to defend himself. It only now occurred to him that if something like that had happened, or would now while he is alone, that he had no idea how to defend himself. Being a 6-year-old in a shinobi world wasn't supposed to be tough, especially during peaceful times like now. He knew the reasons why Kurenai hadn't began to train him yet, for she told him early on that she wished for him to have a slightly normal childhood. It couldn't be put in a different way because of what was sealed inside him. That shook Naruto wide awake as he remembered what happened yesterday, and what, or rather who he met. Thinking for a minute, Naruto closed his eyes, for the Kyuubi had told him how he could go into and out of his own mind, the only place he could ever see and meet the gigantic fox. Naruto giggled at that, for he was still a 6-year-old, and the thought of having a massive fox with 9 tails sealed inside him was somewhat funny. Oh, and why the giggles to early in the morning? Kurama spoke from within Naruto's mindscape, finding it very funny of how the red-haired boy laughed. Naruto blushed slightly at the comment, but decided to ignore it, for he didn't know how to make a comeback at that. Kurama, you really are sealed inside me? I thought that was a dream. The young boy laughed slightly, rubbing the back of his head to show him being a bit nervous. He didn't know the fox could openly talk to him like it just did, so it was still new to him. Unfortunately, yes. As much as I'd like to be out of this cage, I know that's not happening. So I made peace with it a long time ago, the Kyuubi started, lifting his head off of his paws to where it laid. But putting that aside, we have a few things to do, the mighty fox continued, startling the boy with what he just said. We? Naruto asked, cocking his head a bit to the right to show his confusion. Yes, we. I have a few things to explain, I guess. But I will do so a bit later. For now, I think you need to get started with your day, however that might be. When you're ready, come back in here so we can talk, Kurama said, signifying the importance of the conversation that he wanted to have with Naruto with how serious his voice tone sounded. The red-haired boy nodded at that, not saying anything else as he stood up from his bed to start his day. First thing on the young boy's list was always the same: food. The rest came afterwards, that being a shower and brushing his teeth, following with putting on a fresh pair of clothes. So Naruto quickly ran towards the kitchen and took out a bowl of instant ramen, something the boy really loved, and also the only thing he knew how to make. Kurama just snorted at that, but didn't say anything to it. Naruto also just decided to ignore the fox, too hungry to even ask why. Said Biju just snorted when he took out what he wanted to eat. It took him a few minutes to prepare his food, to which he enjoyed it afterwards at a little bit faster than a normal pace. Kurenai had taught Naruto when he was a bit younger that he should enjoy his food more, rather than gulp it up as fast as he could. Her words still remained in his brain, and he just smiled at that thought. Naruto-kun, slow down. Your food isn't gonna run away from you unless you eat like a little piggy, 'cause then you'll spill it. He really loved the past 3 years of his life, especially with Kurenai. She was his best friend, and he didn't think that he would ever have a better friend than her. For what other friend to anyone else took in a 3-year-old boy to take care of, then even took the time to teach the friend things that he or she didn't know? Well, Naruto couldn't think of any other friend in Konoha that would do that for another friend. Or maybe it was just because he didn't know that many people, so he really didn't know, though he just shrugged that thought away to finish his food. Afterwards, Naruto quickly went to take a shower and also made to brush his teeth. When he was finished, the red-haired boy returned to his bedroom, taking a seat in his bed just like before. "Okay, Kurama, I'm done. What did you want to talk about?" Naruto asked, only to remember what the fox said. He then quickly closed his eyes and began to focus, imagining himself being inside his own mind. When he opened his eyes again, he stood in front of Kurama yet again. Said fox was currently in a sitting position, looking down when he heard Naruto entering his mindscape. "Well, I am glad to see you got that done faster than I expected," Kurama said with a bit of sarcasm being his voice, to which the red-haired boy caught on to. "Hey, what is that supposed to mean?" Naruto asked, almost loud enough to make it sound like a yell, though the Kyuubi decided not to answer, but then shook his head a little at how loud he was already being. "You really need to learn how to be less loud, even if you're not loud too much. A human who wants to be a shinobi shouldn't be loud, for your enemies would have a much easier job in finding you then," the Kyuubi said, only to continue before Naruto got a chance to say anything. "There's a few reasons why I said we earlier. I will explain them to you, but only if you don't interrupt me. Got it?" Kurama asked with a slightly louder voice than normal, for it was his first time ever to have a normal conversation with a human, the species the Kyuubi hated the most. But at least he could say that Naruto was different and also tolerable. Said young boy just nodded, still standing before the Kyuubi and inside of the huge bars, signifying that he was inside the cage that held said Biju. Seeing that, Kurama decided to continue. "First thing I want to tell you is that," Kurama started, only to stop halfway with his sentence as he didn't know how to continue. Mostly because of what he was about to say, he had never said to any human ever before, so he was finding it a little harder than he thought. After a could have seconded, the night fox continued. "What I'm trying to say is, sorry. Now that might be something you didn't expect, but do expect to never hear it from me ever again." When the gigantic fox apologized to Naruto, he stood a bit stunned. Not because of him saying sorry, but because Naruto didn't know for what the fox was apologizing for. He wanted to ask, but remembered that Kurama told him to not interfere while he spoke. That only made said Biju happy a little, seeing as that Naruto didn't interrupt him with load of questions. He shows respect at least, and for me of all the beings. Kurama, now a little more happy and yet surprised with the red-haired boy in front of him, decided to continue with where he left off. "Good. I am glad to see that you're not jumping me with questions just yet. I will explain to you why I said what I just said in a moment, but remember, don't interrupt me. And also try to keep an open mind. Like, try to see what I'm about to tell you from my perspective. Okay?" Kurama asked and Naruto just nodded, not saying anything like the fox asked. Seeing that he got a nod from the boy, he spoke again. "When your mother was still pregnant with you, I took the liberty of corrupting your chakra with my own. The reason for that being, I was tired of being sealed from one human to another. So I did what I thought could help me in some way to escape." That caused Naruto to gasp in shock, not entirely of the part of Kurama corrupting his chakra, but because of when he mentioned his mother. Now the red-haired boy had even more questions, and was dying to ask them, though he respected Kurama's wishes and stayed silent, not jumping the fox with all the questions he had. "I am going to guess that you just reacted like that because I mentioned your mother, right?" the Kyuubi asked, looking Naruto straight in the eyes, to which said young boy just nodded, showing that the fox was correct. Well, that is not what I really want to talk about just yet. Also, I don't feel like I should be the one to tell you that. But to take a little bit of your shock away, I'll tell you something about that, Kurama said, already not liking the idea of getting off topic already. Your mother was my host before you. Now I can't say everything to you, because it's not my place to do so. Also, if I say too much to you now about that, you'll most likely just forget about everything else I want to tell you. It will also be too much for you to handle. When you get older and no one told you about her yet, then I'll tell you. Deal? Kurama's question made Naruto smile, but he didn't know why, so he just nodded once more, only to have the QB continue with his conversation. So like I said before, I corrupted your chakra with my own because I wanted to be free, though afterwards a few things happened that made me change my mind. So that was why I apologized earlier. You don't have normal chakra anymore, human chakra, I mean. If I didn't corrupt your chakra like I did, you would have a bit more control over your chakra. Though not much, because no matter what, my chakra would have anyway forced yours to become a lot more seeing as that I'm sealed inside you. So now you have too much chakra, and that will only make it so much more difficult for you to control what you already have. But that's only the first part. The other part is that your chakra will keep growing more and more, because you are an Uzumaki and because you have Biju chakra now. Human chakra would be that ugly blue color, but you now have black-red chakra. So that gets us back to the we part 1 spoke about earlier. I'm going to train you in how to use that chakra, for it is your own now and it will only keep growing as you grow older and become stronger. The entire conversation had Naruto stunned, not believing that he has such horrible chakra control already and he is only 6. From what Kurenai told him a few weeks earlier, a child has to have some sort of control of your chakra if you wish to even enter the Shinobi Academy. What shocked him more was the fact that Kurama told him his chakra was now black-red, so that's going to change a lot of things for him already. Plus, he has a lot of chakra already, so he didn't want to image how hard he will have to train just to be able to control it. Naruto had read a bit about chakra, and knew what it was and what it meant for a shinobi. So the thought of not being able to control his chakra scared him. He wanted to become a strong ninja that protects the people he really cares about. So looking up at the gigantic fox and seeing that he had stopped talking, Naruto took that as him being finished and decided to speak up for the first time after everything the Kyuubi said. Thought what Kurama thought Naruto would say was probably not the first thing the red-haired boy wanted to say. Giving a bit smile at the fox, Naruto spoke up. I forgive you, Kurama. Now it was the Kyuubi's turn to be shocked, for that really wasn't what he thought that the 6-year-old boy would say, and the first thing at that also. Naruto then continued, for the fox was still a bit shocked that a human forgave him. I get why you did what you did, and that's okay. I would want to be free to if I were you. Also about the part that concerns my mother. Could you maybe just tell me her name? Naruto asked with a hopeful face, really wanting to know something about one of his parents. Seeing the face that the red-haired human made in front of him, and also because of how said human respected him enough not to interrupt him while he spoke, Kurama quickly decided that Naruto deserved it, and maybe even a little more also. Uzumaki Kushina, that was her name. Though something else I can tell you is that you have her hair, the Kyuubi said, glad that he could at least tell Naruto a little something about one of his parents. But what made him more glad was the fact that he didn't have to mention the boy's father or tell him anything about who he was. Naruto on his part just smiled even brighter, showing a slight foxy smile at how happy he was that he had the same hair as his mother. In the past, Naruto didn't really know what to think of his red hair. Everyone else in the village had normal hair colors. Some had different, but no one had hair like him. He began to like his hair when he saw Kurenai's eyes, for they were also red. After that, red quickly became his favorite color, though now it grew on him even more, for having the same hair color as his mother really made him happy. Thank you, Kurama, Naruto said, bowing slightly to show his appreciation. He then stood straight again, looking at the fox once more. You said something about training, right? Does that mean you're going to train me personally? If so, how are you going to do that? Naruto asked, not knowing how the Kyuubi intended to train him if he was inside his mind and couldn't get out. I will teach you myself, yes. For no one else in your village can help you train to control your chakra. Or they probably could, though if they did it would only take you about 10 years before you have full control over your chakra. Today seemed to be yet another day for being shocked, and already so early in the morning. Naruto didn't want to take 10 years just to train in chakra control. That would make his life so much more difficult, and he did need to have some sort of control before he starts at the academy like Kurenai said. So then what do I need to do? Naruto asked, already wanting to start with his training if the Kyuubi was willing to teach him. He also remembered that Kurenai had told him that when she got back from her mission, that she would start training him herself. But to have the strongest Biju in history as your trainer really seemed like a great idea to Naruto. Well, first you're going to have to read those books your friend gave you. You're still very young, and for now you need to grow your mind. And the only way to do that is to read. So for now, go back to your normal body again and read those books. I'll be watching you from in here, for I can see through your eyes and see what you see when I want to, Kurama said, surprising Naruto once again. He didn't know that the fox could see through his eyes, but he also didn't mind it. So doing what the Kyuubi said, Naruto closed his eyes yet again, only to wake up in his normal boy once more. He then went to where he put the books he got from his best friend, and got the same book he read the last time that was about the basics of chakra. Now Naruto didn't really like reading, but like the fox said, if you want to grow your mind, meaning if you want to become smarter, then you need to read. You can't expect to know everything if you don't take the time to read at least. So opening the book, Naruto began to read. The book about the basics of chakra wasn't really that big, but it still had a few pages at least. Surprisingly, it only took him an hour and a half to finish the book. After that, Naruto took another book, only this time the title read Chakra Training for Beginners. It took him another hour and a half to finish the book, and by now Naruto knew a lot more about chakra than he did before he started reading the books. So taking that as his cue, the Kyuubi decided to speak up again. Good, you're done. I was really getting bored there with all that reading you did, Kurama mocked, getting a small growl from Naruto. Hey, you're the one that told me to read if I wanted to become smarter, Naruto said out loudly, almost again sounding like he was yelling. What did I say about being loud? And when you speak to me, speak in your mind so that you don't look like a crazy person talking to himself. That got Naruto to blush slightly, not relishing that what he said out loud. Oh, sorry, came Naruto's reply, already forgetting about the Kyuubi mocking him. Now, you think you can find your way to the training ground where your friend trains? Kurama asked from within Naruto's mind once more, but this time a little more serious. Yeah, I know where Kurenai-chan trains. It's easy to get there, Naruto replied with a small smile when he thought of his best friend once again, but was quickly forced out of it when the Kyuubi decided to speak. Then go there. You're going to start training today. That made Naruto nod, for he already expected the giant fox to say something like that. So he quickly got up from his bed and went to the front door, quickly taking a glance around the house that he could see to see if everything else looked okay. He didn't want anyone to come in here that wasn't allowed to enter, or he just knew Kurenai would be upset with him. After he was done checking rooms he could see, Naruto stepped outside and quickly closed the door being him, making sure that he locked it. It only took him a couple of minutes to get to the training ground that he knew his best friend used. He had made a quick sprint towards it, ignoring the glares he got while running through the streets. When he got to the training ground, all he could see was green grass, a few trees that surrounded the place and the few training logs he knew Kurenai and his big sister used. Maybe we should start with something else first, rather than chakra control right away. Kurama spoke up when Naruto stopped in the middle of the training ground, slightly out of breath. Okay, but with what? Naruto asked, clearly forgetting that he was a little out of breath already. You're out of breath, Kit, so I want you to start with body exercises first so that you can increase your stamina. It will help you with your chakra also, but not much, Kurama began, taking a few seconds to continue when Naruto didn't say anything else. For today, run around the entire training ground, but at a steady pace. Do so until you can feel your legs starting to hurt, the red-orange fox told the red-haired boy, to which said boy only nodded to. Now the training ground Naruto currently occupied wasn't that small, but it also wasn't that big either. So taking in what the QB said, he quickly got to work and started jogging around the entire training field, going around and around till eventually he began to feel that his legs truly did begin to get sore. He could also feel that he was slightly out of breath, but Kurama didn't stop there. Said Fox then told Naruto to do as many push-ups as his body could allow, and that when he was done that he should start with sit-ups and do that for a while again. Naruto did what Kurama told him, but was already hating it as his body felt really sore after the 100th push-up. He tried to do the sit-ups, but that he could only do 10 of before his body gave in. "Is that what I'm going to be doing the entire day?" the red-haired boy asked, taking a breath between each word to show just how tired he really was. Now Naruto knew that he wasn't at least that unfit, but no, he thought different. Kurama for one just laughed slight before he answered the boy. "No, Kit, that's what you're going to do for the next 2 weeks at least. And you will do it till you can't anymore. If I feel like you still can, then you will." That shocked the red-haired boy again, for he now knew that Kurama really was. "You're a slave driver," Naruto told the QB, still showing the shock on his face. But he quickly got over it, for he knew that if he wanted to become stronger that he would have to work hard. Kurama didn't say anything to what Naruto told him, but only gave a slight foxy smirk which the red-haired boy couldn't see. Naruto did those exercises for an entire week, each time a bit more than the last if the QB saw that he could do more. By the end of the first week, Naruto was able to run 30 laps around the entire training ground. He was also able to complete 150 push-ups and even 70 sit-ups in one day. The QB told him to do more, but Naruto told him that he couldn't, for his body was exhausted. At least he got to rest at night, was what Naruto told himself every day after he was done with his exercises. The following day, when Naruto got back up and finished with his breakfast and everything else, he decided to take a different route to the training ground this time, for he didn't like to run into villagers every day, only to hear them all call him terrible names or even throw stuff at him again. He ran through some forest that he knew led to the training grounds he used, only he hoped so at least. Halfway through the forest, he stumbled upon a boy who seemed to be doing some training himself. Though for some reason, and to Naruto's shock, the boy was currently doing sit-ups. It wouldn't be an odd thing for anyone to do sit-ups, but what shocked Naruto yet again was the fact that the boy with very weird-looking hair and very thick eyebrows, looking to be only a year or so older than him, was counting his sit-ups and was already at 500. That nearly knocked Naruto out of his shinobi sandals, for he didn't know how that was even possible. Seeing what his red-haired host also saw, the QB decided to voice his opinion. "See, Kit, that's how it's done. And from the looks of it, the boy isn't just saying those numbers just to sound like he's doing much. It seems like he truly is doing that many. You could learn a thing or two from him," Kurama mocked with a sly grin on his foxy face, which Naruto of course couldn't see. He did hear the tone of voice Kurama used though, and was about to reply on that when the thick-eyebrowed boy stopped with his training when he saw the red-haired boy a few feet away from him. "Hi!" came the voice of the boy Naruto just stumbled upon. "Is there something I can help you with?" he asked, looking at Naruto with a smile on his face. That really got Naruto's attention, for the boy wasn't running away from him like more children do who were around the same age as him. Nor did he throw anything or made a horrible comment about Naruto, and that made him smile. "I just came through here. Sorry for disturbing you. I would have probably went on if I didn't hear you," Naruto told the dark-haired boy, who in return just smiled and held his hand out. "That's okay. I was about done with that for now anyway. I'm Rock Lee, by the way. Nice to meet you," the now Rock Lee told him, offering his hand to greet the red-haired boy. Naruto was a bit hesitant at first, for no one else other than a few people were kind to him. But deciding to give it a chance, Naruto held his own hand out, shaking Rock Lee's hand. "Uzumaki Naruto. Nice to meet you." Lee smiled when Naruto shook his hand, feeling as if he just made a friend. "Well, Naruto, mind if I ask where you were going? You seem to be in a hurry," Lee asked Naruto, for he just saw the boy that almost run past him, only to stop a few feet away from where he was training. Yeah, I was about to go to a training ground that I used, the red-haired boy told Lee, who was a bit surprised to hear that Naruto was going to a training ground. Really? You don't look like you're old enough to enter the academy just yet. No offense to that, Lee spoke, looking at the boy in front of him who he believed to be maybe a year younger than him. Naruto just nodded before he spoke. I'm only 6, but that doesn't mean I can't train. Rock Lee smiled at that. Seeing someone else that young already training really made the boy already like the red-haired boy in front of him. Though Lee wouldn't voice it, he did find Naruto's hair color to be a bit odd, for he hasn't seen anyone with that kind of hair color. Well, you can train with me if you want to. I'm getting ready to enter the academy next year and I want to be ready for anything. So I'm just doing some body exercises at the moment. If by any chance you're doing that also, Lee spoke, only guessing what Naruto's training might be. But he could be wrong, although he didn't think a 6-year-old would already be doing ninjutsu training. There were other forms or training, but Lee didn't have anything to lose with his guess, so he just voiced it. Luckily for him, Naruto smiled and nodded, happy to have someone that was willing to train with him. Sure, I'd really like that. I'm also busy with those kind of exercises, Naruto spoke, still with a smile on his face. Yash, a training partner is always welcome. Let's do our best, Naruto, Lee exclaimed, feeling very excited to have someone to train with, though he also thought of something else, something he didn't relish until now. Say, Naruto, how are you able to train at the training grounds? Aren't you supposed to have permission for that if you're not an academy graduate? The thick eyebrow boy asked, finding it strange that the red-haired boy was allowed to train in a shinobi training ground. Naruto just gave a nervous laugh at that before he spoke. You were supposed to get permission to train there? Oops. Now it was Lee's turn to laugh, finding Naruto's response pretty funny. Afterwards, both boys agreed to train where they currently were, for they didn't want to get into trouble by using a training ground without permission. Having one boy use it was bad enough, but having 2 boys without permission could get them spotted easily if someone was to stumble upon them. Then they would get into trouble and they didn't want that. So they both trained where Naruto found Lee, in the middle of a forest. Though it wasn't a big forest, it at least held a few things to help the boy, mostly with privacy, and that was what they liked. Naruto and Lee spent 2 weeks doing boy exercises, and each time Naruto wanted to give up, Lee just continued to push him further, making him do more than he thought he could. The Kyuubi on his part was glad that Naruto got someone to push him at least, for it would have been a lot worse if he forced Naruto and pushed him even harder. Kurama wanted Naruto to become fit at least before he started training to boy in chakra control, and with Lee's help that seemed to be happening. The last week of the month, Lee told Naruto that he was going to stay home for a bit, for he needed to get ready in a few other ways for the academy. Naruto didn't know what he meant by that, so Lee told him that there were 3 things you needed to enter the academy. First, you had love your village, and you also had to have hope to preserve peace and prosperity. Then you had to have a strong mind and must be able to endure anything they throw at you. The final requirement to enter the academy was a healthy body and mind, and Lee told Naruto that he needed to heal his mind a bit, meaning he needed to rest and read a bit, although Lee showed with a facial expression how much he disliked reading. Naruto then asked about the part of having good chakra control, to which Lee told him that it was also required somewhat. You only had to have some form or chakra control to be able to do a few things they tell you in the academy, and he also heard that when you graduate that you have to use a bit of chakra for a few things. Though what it was, Lee was not sure. Afterwards, they bid each other farewell, and said to meet up again on another time. Naruto then went back to the training ground after that, only to continue with his body exercises. He was already getting anxious, for he really missed his best friend and really hoped that she was doing okay. At least the following day he received a letter, which he got from a random shinobi he didn't know. Naruto quickly went back into the house, seeing as it was still early in the morning and he had yet to have anything to eat. Taking a quickly look at the envelope he got, Naruto could see it was sent from Kurenai, for it said so in the front. He opened it as carefully as possible, not wanting to damage the paper inside. When he got it out, he quickly opened it and began to read it contents. Hi Naruto-kun, I miss you. I hope you're doing okay and that you're eating healthy at least. I know I said I might only be away from a month, but it seems like they need us to stay here for a little while longer. The war here is really different than what I though. Sorry that I can't tell you much about it. They are really secretive here and they don't want me to send letters that might get lost and end up with the enemies. It was really difficult to get them to even agree to this, so I guess I'm really lucky that I got to send you a letter. Just know that I am okay and unhurt. So is Anko, though she doesn't want to admit it, but she really misses you too. Just stay safe, okay? I'll be back as soon as I'm done here. When I'm back, we'll begin your training if you'd still like. Deal? I really wish I could make this letter longer, but they really don't want me to send something long. So I'll see you soon, okay? From Yuhi Kurenai. When Naruto was done with the letter, he neatly folded it back like the way it was, putting it back into its envelope like before. He was really sad that he would have to wait even longer to see his best friend again, but knew that she was going good while on her mission. Helping another country really made Naruto respect his best friend a lot more, for she seemed really determined to help Mei, the older woman who was so nice to him when they met. After putting the letter away, Naruto quickly did his normal morning routine. When he was done, he went back to the training ground and began to do a few exercises yet again, which now consisted out of running 100 laps around the training ground, then doing 200 push-ups and sit-ups. He continued to do all of that until 1 p.m., when the QB stopped him. Kit, I believe you are ready to begin with chakra training now. So you can stop with the exercise you're doing, Kurama said from within Naruto's mindscape, making the boy come to a full stop. So how do I begin? Naruto asked, but had some idea of what he is supposed to do, thanks to the books he read that Kurenai gave him. Though they didn't say much in the training part, and only mentioned a few things you can do to help you. He would have done it had it not been for Kurama telling him about him having non-human chakra now, and that his chakra is far stronger and so much more than the normal person's chakra. First, you're going to have to concentrate on where you want your chakra to be, in this case your feet. Then you're going to have to hold it for as long as you can. You'll see what I mean by that when you use your chakra. One tip though, use as little as you can. The QB's words made him feel a bit weird, for he didn't see how that was a chakra control exercise. But he did it nonetheless. Remembering what he saw in one of the books he read, Naruto placed his hands together to form a ram seal. He then closed his eyes and began to concentrate on his feet, where the QB told him he should focus his chakra at. It took a little longer than he expected, but eventually chakra began to form under it feel. Just like the QB said, when Naruto opened his eyes slightly, he didn't see blue chakra like the books showed that normal humans had. Instead, he saw what looked like black-red chakra, but that only lasted for a few seconds before he got shot into the air. Naruto yelled at this, not knowing what just happened. When he landed on the ground, he tried to stand up as fast as he could. What happened just now? Naruto asked Kurama, glad that he could speak to the QB in a way that didn't make him look like a crazy person that spoke to himself. You used too much chakra, you idiot. Didn't I tell you to concentrate? The QB ranted, irritated that Naruto lost focus on his chakra. Do it again, and this time don't blow yourself up. You have Biju chakra now, not human chakra. If you use too much, you'll blow yourself off of the ground. I know it seems weird, but you can control it just yet. You saw that it was mostly black just now. Kurama continued, asking Naruto if he remembered the colors he saw.